How much time? 30? 30 seconds? I'm on right now. I don't believe you.
Run.
What?
Good evening, good people. Welcome to the Brews at 10 on my left eye. A very special live stream, of course. Quite a big evening tonight. The local elections. Big night in England, Scotland, and Wales. Let's brew this thing. It's also pretty much, the end of Starmer's political career. Not that he'll be resigning in the morning, of course, but you know what I mean. Well, I can see what you mean in the chat. Labour wipeouts expected, absolutely. Conry, thank you very much for those 5 gifted memberships. That's a lovely way to start off this special stream. Fingers crossed, of course, for the independence parties in Scotland and Wales, of course, this evening. $111 now, great way to start. Thanks again for that. Please do big up Comrie in the chat, please, everybody. Thanks, Comrie. May Scotland and Wales be free from the shackles of empire. And yeah, let's hope that the results, the full results coming in tomorrow, of course, will reflect that. Of course, I'll be going over the hot seats. that have been selected to keep our eye on. We'll see if they get a mention, because we are going to cut over to live news feed at some point. That doesn't start for a little while though, so before then I'm just going to go over some other stories in a bit of a warm-up. Some do, of course, relate to the elections. And then we'll see how things are looking. With the polls closing just some 6 minutes ago, it's all over, just like Keir Starmer's career. And chances of lasting as leader of the Labour Party for any significant amount of time. So yes, if you're in England, I hope you have voted for the Green candidate, or lacking that, a Socialist Independent or whatnot. Yeah, and of course for Scottish and Welsh independents if you're in Scotland or Wales. Give it the old 1-2. And if you voted Reform, well, you're on the wrong stream. Well, let's see who else is on the right stream. FSM Dog, nice to see you. London Cheesehead as well. Looks like the Greens getting quite a lot of votes. Plaid Cymru and SNP, Scotland and Wales. Yeah, that's the way to go. We do have a poll for how you feel this will pan out. Yesterday we asked how many seats you thought the Greens would gain on stream this time. How many seats will Labour lose? It's set to be quite a large amount, but will it be under 1,000? Between 1,000 and 1,499? Between 1,500 and 1,999? Or will it be 2,000 or more? Please do vote in the poll. I will leave that open. So I think, as far as our predictions go, is it 6 contenders? Or 7? Well, maybe 6.5. It depends if you count Tower Hamlets. Or not, I think. But yeah, we're hoping to get a good score. If they all go green, it will be the first time that we've had 100% success rate in predictions on hot seats, apart from Gorton and Denton, of course, which wasn't that difficult because it was just one result. Hoping for a similar result to Gorton and Denton, of course, on a wider scale. But that being a parliamentary by-election, these are, of course, council elections. We went over, excuse me, we went over some very underhanded tactics being used by the mainstream media on yesterday's stream. We will be taking another look at that. And while there isn't actually an official comedy video on this stream tonight, there are going to be 1 or 2 laughs. Got some more great vox pops from the Canary, as well as a bit of a trip down memory lane, although in my case I don't actually remember this one. It's from around the 2010 election when Theresa May, sorry, must have been, that could have been 2010. 2017, apologies, I think. And yeah, one of Theresa May's candidates put out, and I assure you it's genuine, you'll understand what I mean when you see it, but one of the most laughable, cringy, what do you call it, past political broadcast videos that's ever been seen at a constituency level. I was going to tell... No, I won't. Okay, no more spoilers about that. I'm going to wait until we warm up to it. It's... God. I wasn't made aware of it until today, actually. I don't recall this, but I hope it was roundly mocked on the internet at the time. Obviously. It's still quite a long time ago. 2017. But of course, things like YouTube were a thing and thriving. Okay, time for a shout out to all the members on the channel, of course. Credit where it's rightly due. I think just got a bit of a screen freeze here, apologies. Remember this almost immediately, bear with. Might be a couple of seconds, but yeah, the chat should be frozen as well now. So thank you very much, and thanks for those gifted memberships as well, as we try and push back towards 200 and then 250, the actual membership goal. Hopefully we're getting all of the gremlins and technical problems out of the way early on. Other ways that you can support the channel on the stream are with super chat, super stickers if you're with us live, and super thanks if you're watching back later on. And we do have a Buy Me a Coffee page, please do consider using that to support the channel as well. Take a look in the description of any content, you'll find the link right there. Thanks again. A few more stories, as I said before we get onto the locals and Keith's demise.
Oh God!
But first of all, just a quick few things. Something I didn't have time to get onto last night, unfortunately. Regular, or indeed recent viewers will know that we were outside Woolwich Crown Court last week, following a small Defend Our Jury's silent vigil outside as they showed support for the activists on trial, of course. This is the Albit Systems trial, the Filton 6. All of the silent placard holders were arrested there at Woolwich. That was a couple of streams back if you want to check out some exclusive footage of that. But since we were there, there has been a verdict, and there were 2 not guilty verdicts and 4 guilty verdicts. Now this is in a retrial. They were acquitted of aggravated burglary, and in this, basically, you know, that didn't stick, so then the Department of Public Prosecutions, oh well, let's try this now, so they've gone for criminal damage. Others, well, one other specific defendant was also on trial for GBH as well, but well, this video is going to explain how things turned out. As I said, you had 2 acquittals and 4 guilty verdicts. And we're going to hear from one of the family members of the defendants in this clip as well.
So we're outside Woolwich Crown Court. We've just had the verdicts from the Filton retrial, 6 defendants, and our minds are boggled by the...
Sorry to interrupt so quickly. Shout out to the Canary as well for this video. Do check out the Canary.
The verdict. So 6 of them charged with criminal damage. 2 of them have just been acquitted and 4 of them convicted. Which is extraordinary because all of them admitted to causing property damage inside the Albert factory. We've also got a verdict for Sam Corner, who was charged with GBH with intent. He was found not guilty of that and instead convicted of GBH without intent. So the jury have concluded that he did not mean...
A police officer was injured at the scene. That essentially means this was accidental. He did, yeah. Those who are familiar with the case will know what I'm referring to, and that was Sam Corner. So obviously, the target was Elbit Systems, of course. One of the 2 who was acquitted, who managed to damage a drone, I think, said that it was... one of the best moments of the life, knowing what things like these weapon systems, weapons, are intended to do. That's what they were there to take out. They did not go there with the intention of hurting people. The fact that the Department of Public Prosecutions try and persist, excuse me, in sort of recycling this case, putting it through again, you know, different charges, this time hoping something will stick. Really shows the lengths that the institutions and Zionists as well will go to. But I'll let the video continue.
To injure the police officer when he took action inside the factory.
You were there the whole time, obviously. Can you tell me about what you can say about the process itself?
Yeah, the headline is it wasn't a fair trial, and I can't even tell you in what ways the jury were not allowed to hear the whole truth, but there were so many restrictions on what they were allowed to hear and so many other things that have gone on.
Well, I've mentioned them, of course. They weren't allowed to know, for example, that if convicted, the defendants would have faced terrorism charges. They weren't allowed to talk about anything to do with war or conflict in the Middle East, wholesale, let alone specifically, of course, pertaining to the occupation of Palestine, but the whole region of the Middle East. Several other conditions and caveats, things that any jury should know if they're going to make an honest judgment in this case. You can, you know, talk about kangaroo courts, rigging the game, this kind of thing. This is a classic example, but it's absolutely shameful to see it happening in a UK court.
This has not been a fair trial by any stretch of the imagination, and it's clearly been a very politically influenced trial. The fact that it's a retrial, they've already been through this whole process. The last jury refused to convict them of a single charge. They had the most serious charges dropped, and yet they're being hauled back into court again because this government, leaning on the courts, is so desperate for convictions to prop up the proscription of Palestine action, and that's what all of this has been about.
Can you see what's going to happen next in terms of the appeals process or something like that?
I can't comment on that. I don't know what the defendants and the lawyers are thinking at the moment. Our brains are just buzzing. We cannot get our heads around what has just happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you must at least be relieved that your daughter's home.
I don't know how to feel.
From the prescription of Pal action itself right through to this moment, I really can't believe it. And I guess I can, of course, knowing the country that I live in, but it's more of a sense of, like I said, shame and embarrassment. Especially at the same time when we're told by the establishment itself that we have justice and we have things like a proper democracy. But that's just pure gaslighting, isn't it, people? Taking away people's peaceful right to protest with pernicious and underhanded legislation is nothing that anybody in this country should be proud of.
I mean, definitely, on paper, it's an extraordinary victory that 2 of the 6 who fully admitted to damaging weapons have been acquitted. I mean, that is something extraordinary. And yet, they are heartbroken about the 4 who got the convictions, and not just got convictions.
Well, I saw them going in as I was there filming the silent vigil last week as well. Just right, you know, this very fence behind the lady who's speaking here. Apologies, I don't have a name to hand. But it's, yeah, crazy. Seems like I was just there yesterday. I do also have to say, just very quickly, whilst I've got it paused, a shout out to Peter Doyle in the chat for an excellent super sticker there. Thank you very much for that amazing contribution. Solidari-Tea for that one. Let's please big up Peter in the chat, please, everybody. Much appreciated.
We're immediately remanded to prison to await sentencing, having spent 18 months already in prison without a single conviction, which is already the equivalent of nearly a 4-year sentence. When they do get sentenced, it cannot possibly be more than 4 years, given the nature of the charge. To watch her co-defendants being led out of the court, knowing they were going straight back to prison, was more than Zoe could bear. She's been devastated.
Yeah. Well, this is Zoe's mother, I believe. Yeah, if memory serves. Apologies if it isn't. I obviously know a lot about the case, but not the relatives of the defendants, that sort of a granular level. Yeah, just back to the politics, of course, because this is just riding roughshod over what the courts are supposed to be about. Of course, the executive and the judiciary are supposed to be kept completely sort of separate, but and now it just seems that courts and the Met Police as well are free to ignore the rulings of, for example, the High Court, who ruled the original prescription illegal. Of course, there is an appeal. Shabana Mahmood won't let it go. She's still trying to win an appeal to get that overturned and reinstate the legislation that was originally put through by Yvette Cooper, of course, but quite a mixed bag in terms of results there. I'd love to know what you think about this one in the chat. Davinia, yes, it is injustice. It absolutely is. 100%. Wanted some talk of tights. Robin Hood. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, be classed as terrorist. I'll just look at what's happening with Take Back Power. By the way, actually, just very quickly before I forget, because mentioned Ella being pulled out of the May Day March. That was on last Saturday, of course, on the 4th of May, International Workers' Day, and all that. yeah, but someone else, since returning here to the northwest in Manchester, has had their house raided, and they've been arrested and held on remand. This was for, this is why Robin Hood reminded me about it, what is known as a take-back action. You might have heard of these. Regular viewers will have, of course, heard me make mention of them. But yeah, essentially taking essential items off of supermarket shelves, and then they go and redistribute them into food banks. So yeah, Robin Hood would be remanded if he were around today, and yeah, lauded as a hero, I guess, in folklore. But there's no consist. Anyway, back to the Filton case. Of course, there are 24 defendants in total. This group of 6 have had their verdicts on the criminal damage. We'll see what happens with others, because, as I said, following previous not guilty convictions, the Department of Public Prosecutions are still coming out and trying to throw as much spaghetti at the wall as they can to try and make just a single strand of it stick. It's an affront to justice. We don't want to live in a country that produce weapons that help facilitate war crimes either, of course. Just see how we're doing for time. We're okay for time. Yeah, the official, we're going to go to the P.O.V broadcast, which starts at about 11:10, I think, UK time. Do have other tidbits to go through as well. Now, this is an excellent piece of alternate media and journalism from Declassified UK. They approach Mark Rowley, who's the head of the, he's the Chief Police Commissioner in the UK. He has to answer for the Met, of course. He's been in the public eye a lot recently, of course, surrounding protests, what Keir Starmer's intentions for pro-Palestinian Gaza marches are, and so on. But he is really not fit for office, and if Sadiq Khan had anything about him, then he really would seek to remove him and get him replaced, because it's very obvious at this point that he's got this agenda that he's been, you know, whatever is influencing him, whatever they're using, or maybe is just doing it because he's that sort of person. But whatever the influence on him is, it's pretty obvious, because none of his arguments stand up to scrutiny. You're also going to see him in a bit of a clash with another journalist, Owen Jones, as well, after this one from Declassified UK, who I also highly recommend you go and subscribe to.
You don't need to push our photographer over. Good afternoon, Police Commissioner. I'm Phil Miller. I'm a journalist from Declassified UK. Can we just ask you how you're going to police the ban on Palestine action? You don't want to take questions from the press about this, Commissioner? Thousands of people have declared their support for the group. Is this law unenforceable? Do you think damage to property should be treated as terrorism? Do you have the resources to police this ban? We've just had the anniversary of 7/7, when people were killed by suicide bombers. Aren't those the terrorists that you should be focusing on? Commissioner, We're just trying to ask you about this new law that's come through. You don't need to push our photographer over, Commissioner. Commissioner, why don't you want to answer questions about these new powers that you have? Is Britain turning into a police state? This 83-year-old priest that was arrested at the weekend, is she a terrorist?
Yeah, that would be Sue. Yeah, Sue Pollard from Defend Our Juries. I think I'm rather certain that Sue's in her 80s. But yeah, people like that aren't the real problem who need to be taken off our streets. This draconian legislation just won't stand.
Commissioner? Do you think the Home Secretary made a mistake to give the police these extra powers? So that was the Met Police Commissioner, Mark Rowley, London's most senior police officer, who didn't want to answer our questions about the ban on Palestine action and how he's going to enforce it. It means that for the first time, a non-violent direct action protest group, which has tens of thousands of supporters across the country, is now classed as a terrorist organisation. The police will have to treat it as if it were Al-Qaeda, a group that we've just had the anniversary of.
Yeah, we've been following the Defend Our Juries process at length. There's lots of, again, exclusive content if you want to go through our videos and stuff. So, more than 2,500 arrests have now been made at these demonstrations, where again people just silently hold up placards. People like the 82-year-old lady that Phil was referring to there. And what a time to be alive. Yeah. They're trying to remove every single one of our hard-fought for and won rights before our very eyes.
Blowing up London Underground and buses. What was surprising about that interaction is just how physical both Mark Rowley was and his minders as well. The police chief actually pushed my colleague into the barriers while he was trying to film, and immediately his colleague came up with that classic police excuse that my cameraman somehow fell over himself, which was clearly not the case. But I think this just shows that frankly, they're a bit panicked. They've got these sweeping new powers, which on the one hand, I think they quite welcome. But on the other hand, the optics of them...
No, not the actress Sue Pollard. It's a... No. Parfit, sorry, not Pollard. Oh. It has been a long day, you know. This is a late night stream. It's Sue Parfit. Sue Parfit. Yeah.
Arresting priests
Sorry,
in their
Sue,
80s,
if you're watching.
is possibly undermining the public's confidence in terrorism legislation.
Yeah, Declassified UK, that's the handle you want for more excellent reporting of great alternative journalism there. I couldn't even tell you how many people I know have been arrested at the DOJ protest now. But yeah, it's quite a few. Some of them are also viewers of this channel as well. Again, respect and solidarity if you're watching. How's the poll looking, people? Just going to take a sneaky look here. We have quite a clear leader at the moment. Most of you thinking between 1,500 and 1,999. 29% think between 1,000 and 1,499. 2,000 or more has garnered 25% of the vote so far. And just 4% think Labour are going to get off lightly with less than 1,000 seat losses. do vote if you just join us on stream. Yes, we followed DOJ protests in London, both at Parliament Square and Trafalgar Square multiple times, as well as here in Manchester. St. Peter's Square, famous area of protest, near to the scene of the great historical injustice that was the Peterloo Massacre. And also features a statue of Emmeline Pankhurst. Right, the next item. We're still waiting, still around half an hour or so before we're going to go into the live feed. Owen Jones, this is on the same topic, Mark Rowley. The Met Police, the way that the legislation's being policed, the double standards of everything, the police and the courts. Let's see what's happening.
I'm really troubled by what we've seen is many of these.
And the chap on the right at the bottom of the screen is Chris Hyam, who was arrested on a Palestine march. It was the same one that Jeremy Corbyn was held for questioning at. That was, near Trafalgar Square. Do you remember that one? The police said, yeah, you can come through, and then arrested them for being in the area. Total bullshit.
Marches, they set out with an intent to march near synagogues, etc., and every single time we put conditions on to prevent that. But even that intent causes me concern that they repeatedly ask to do such things.
How do you respond to what the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, what he said?
Well, it's shocking, really, because he knows this isn't true. We have never, ever intentionally wanted to march near a synagogue. And actually, he says in a clip that as part of his quote, he actually says that we want to walk past synagogues.
Yeah, that's revolting live. Of course, the routes and such are liaised with the police, because we're talking about very large numbers of people here, often in the hundreds of thousands. To make the claim that that's done to intentionally intimidate Jews by going close to synagogues is, of course, ridiculous. And aside from the fact that there are, of course, thousands of Jewish protesters on the march itself.
There isn't a single example of any route we have ever suggested to the police which marches directly past the synagogue. So that is just a kind of flagrant untruth, a lie, to be honest, because he must know this isn't true. He has access to all the emails and all the recordings of meetings, and he can talk to the people who've been in meetings with us. But even when it comes to the whole question of marching in the general vicinity of synagogues, first of all, we don't actually accept the idea that us doing so is problematic, because we present no threat to Jewish people, actually, whether they're worshipping or doing anything else. And in fact, as I think you mentioned, thousands of Jewish people march on our demonstrations, which makes the whole thing a joke. But the times when we have asked to march in areas where there are synagogues, they've always been on absolutely established routes, like, for example, from the BBC to Trafalgar Square, or from Park Lane to Whitehall, which are routes that everyone uses, including the Palestine movement historically. We didn't even know there were synagogues in the area. This just wasn't an issue for us until the police brought it up. So, I mean...
Do they go past any churches, of course? Because is Bethlehem not the birthplace of the Christian deity Jesus Christ. And in Palestine, of course. Is there nothing to say there from the Commissioner of Police? No. Do they go near any mosques? No. Why this? Why specifically? Even though it's not even true. In fact, yeah, they do probably go closer to and past more churches than they do synagogues. Well, you don't hear Mark Rowley saying anything about that one, do you?
I have to say, there is no doubt in my mind that Mark Rowley is not just telling untruths, but that he knows he's telling untruths as part of a wider campaign, and it's problematic.
And just to be clear, I mean, in terms of the BBC, I mean, this is a classic route. I've been to so many protests which start at the BBC. There's a reason for protesting at the BBC, partly, not least, the BBC's terrible coverage, which I've investigated in detail myself, but so have many others, in terms of how they reported Israel's genocide. The synagogue in question is about 400, 500 meters away. And that is being presented as an attempt to march by a synagogue.
Yeah.
But it's just not true.
It may.
If you want to see attempts to march on place of worship, then look no further than the far right. The so-called Southport riots. I was at one of the counter-protests against that myself. And people from a local community where we were filming went to defend a mosque against these far-right knuckle-dragging idiots. That's where the real problem is. If they have to make up such ridiculous lies, it just shows the weight of the original argument, which is pure feelings over facts, isn't it? And now we see Starmer bending to the Zionist lobbies yet again, as Mark Rowley's doing, and extra police for Jewish communities, even though proportionately they are the least threatened or the least attacked. And now, of course, this is pouring over into the politics with the ridiculous anti-Semitic slurs which are being pointed at Zach Polanski, who is, of course, himself from a Jewish family. So, nonsense within nonsense, wrapped in bullshit.
He's slightly nearer than that, maybe 200 metres from the BBC. But
I saw 350. Sorry, so I've seen over and over again 350.
Yeah.
But yeah, nonetheless.
Good points. Good points there from Owen Jones. Yeah. Be good to see Owen get down to maybe one of the DOJ marches. I don't know. I bumped into quite a few well-known faces while I've been around there, often showing support. I don't know if he'd actually even want to sit. I'll leave you good people to debate that one. John Ladd, nice to see you. Yeah, climate change is, of course, a downer on everything. Don't get me started. That's another topic. One thing I will say, though, actually, very quickly, is a bit of a plug for a new... I've not read it yet. It's actually hot off the press today. Just released Professor Bill Maguire's latest book concerning climate change. I will, though, having read his previous work, Hothouse Earth, pre-warn you, as staggeringly detailed and accurate as his studies and books are, they are somewhat terrifying. It's like, dystopian book come to life. But you can't ignore the truth. It's the harsh reality of it. So yeah, Bill Maguire, Professor Bill Maguire, he's Professor Emeritus at University College London. When you're talking about people who know the stuff on climate change in this country, he's right up there with them. I've had the pleasure of hosting him at a talk or two. I met him a few times as well. He's a nice fella. Obviously, met him, having hosted him. So yeah, because it's time to get our heads out the sand really on the climate change. It's people like Professor Bill Maguire who give us the cold, harsh reality of it. So that's the plug. Go and check it out. If you go on his social media, I'm certain that there'll be a link there, because that was just out today. In fact, yeah, I was reading some of his stuff not too long ago, actually. One more bit before we get on to hot seats, local election things. Whilst we were talking about, obviously, Palestine, there with the marches, but this concerns the United Nations reaction and lack of action coming under scrutiny from Mehdi Hassan. Now, we've heard multiple statements from the likes of Antonio Guterres, Director General, who's the Director General at the United Nations, but it's always hollow words, and obviously the United Nations developed from the League of Nations. These institutions, historically people were told, were founded to prevent things like global war, famine, genocide, the very things that Israel are committing right now. So it's not working, basically, the institution of the United Nations, aside from someone stepping in front of a camera now and then and saying, oh, we were horrified to learn about such and such, and we strongly, strongly this, strongly that. Yes, they do provide aid and things, and obviously we're aware of the way that United Nations aid workers have been treated in Gaza, for example. But in the leaky roof scenario, that is, of course, the bucket on the floor, not the getting on the roof and fixing the tiles or whatever in the first place. There's certainly calls and questions about the amount of money that the United Nations cost versus just how well it prevents annexation of territory, the killing of civilians, the attacks on journalists, the attacks on doctors and nurses, these kind of things that are still happening every day in Gaza and now Lebanon as well, of course. And if you're going to have somebody break someone over the coals, I would highly recommend you try and get hold of Mehdi Hassan, because he never holds any quarter and fails to, certainly doesn't fail to follow up on his reputation in this clip. Sorry, I nearly got my words in the wrong order there. Long day, etc. Right.
The Lebanese Health Ministry has said over 100 health professionals in Lebanon have been killed since March the 2nd of this year with impunity. Is Israel getting away with killing aid workers and medics in Lebanon because the world and your organization, the UN, let Israel get away with doing that in Gaza?
Well, I don't know that it was for us to let anyone get away with it or not get away with it. I call for accountability. We call for accountability. We condemn the killing of aid workers all the time. I was in Lebanon just over a month ago and sat with those health workers who were going out every day. I sat in their ambulance, with very little physical protection, let alone the protection they should receive from member states and the international community. But ultimately, It's not my job to then go and hold people to account and offer those protections. The member states have got to be doing that. The international community has got to be doing that. And that's what's missing at the moment.
But as the UN humanitarian chief, having gone to Lebanon, having been to Gaza, what is your message to Israel when you see what's happening on the ground to paramedics, doctors, nurses, EMTs, aid workers?
My message to all governments and all armed groups, don't kill humanitarians.
It sounds like what...
Okay. In what realm of the imagination do you imagine Netanyahu sitting around with his war cabinet and all the other ghouls, the like Gavir and all these other awful Smotrich et al. And someone coming across and go, oh, well, but what would the United Nations have to say about this? And then whoever proposed it goes, oh, yes, you make a very good... We shouldn't go through with that then. No. They act with impunity and even go so far as to murder United Nations aid workers themselves, and to not even come out in further force because of that just shows, frankly, a complete lack of bollocks. These are people who work for you. These are the colleagues of people who work for the United Nations, literally being murdered in cold blood by the IDF. And they're not appalled by that. They're not going to use everything that they have in their power to be able to stop that and to hold the people responsible to account. It's just really, I mean, what's going on? Oh well, of course we've said we don't like these kind of things. I don't know about you, but I'd just be a bit more enthused to actually do something proper, because you're dealing with psychopaths here, man. When you're talking about Israel and the attacks on Lebanon and Gaza, you're dealing with literal fascist psychopaths. No drama in that, no hyperbole. It's not clickbait. It's a sociological fact, according to criteria required, being defined as such. So, do something about it. Do something direct about it. Because I get frustrated about this every day, and I can't even imagine what it's like for the people who are still lucky to be alive in Gaza when you look at the proportion of people who've been murdered over the last 3 years now. Yeah, come autumn, this will have been going on for 3 years.
White people said after George Floyd was killed, there was a whole, all lives matter. Do you remember that phrase? And people say, no, why can't you say Black Lives Matter? It's not all governments doing this. It's the Israeli government, but you keep saying all member states. Do you recognize that it's Israel doing this in Lebanon and Gaza?
Look, it's for courts and member states to hold individual governments to account.
Have you heard of the ICC? Have you heard of the International Court of Justice? Man, how can you be so pig ignorant to the fact that they have been labelled as international criminals, as genociders by these institutions? Whether it's your place or not, you can at least recognise it. And of course, Mehdi Hassan's question was directed at one UN state nation specifically. Really? I don't know if he's trying to save face or whatever, or not try and tarnish the reputation of himself or the institution of the United Nations with these responses, but I'm not feeling that. This is embarrassing, because who else we're supposed to turn to? That is literally it. If the UN aren't going to do anything about it, then we're all shit out of luck. We're all shit out of legitimate options or whatnot. So it's going to take a direct intervention by another member state vis-a-vis war and conflict on top of war and conflicts and genocide. Is that what you want? Is that what the world needs right now? You could at least start with proper sanctions. These kind of things. I'm not talking about, direct military intervention at first. Something practical has to be done, though. Just really is a sorry state of affairs. It might as well not exist. What's the point? What sort of a message does that send to potential despotic dictators? Again, psychopaths. They go, well, we'll get away with it because the UN never do it. Just look at what Israel got away with. Israel have now set the benchmark for modern fascism, essentially, with what they've gotten away with. It's not give them an inch and they'll take a mile. It's, give them a millimetre and they'll try and annex your whole fucking country and ethnically cleanse the people if they don't conform to their pro-Zionist fascist ideology. That's what it is.
Clearly, these people are being killed by someone, but they're being
It could be anyone. It could be anyone. Clearly, it's someone. I'm sure I had it written down somewhere. Mehdi Hassan's
killed by Israel.
Yeah, right. Can we agree they're being killed by Israel?
We agree they're being killed by Israel. You don't have to condemn them.
Because I'm not.
Hold on, you went to Lebanon. Who's on the
dancing on a fucking pinhead here? Who is this fucking guy? Oh, this is so bad. This is so bad.
Many people are being killed by Israel.
Many. That doesn't help your arguments. Okay, so gone from trying to get away with it by saying, well, yes, we say this to every member state. He's now, with stroking these broad brush statements. Say, well, Israel try and kill everybody. Many people are being killed by Israel, but that doesn't mean to say that they're genocidal. They just want to kill everybody who's not a Zionist. Which is most people.
In Lebanon and in occupied Palestinian territories. But it's not my job. I'm not the investigator here. Like I've got my hands full trying to respond to, trying to help.
But your organisation said recently about Lebanon that in the first 7 days of the current conflict, 20% of the casualties were children.
Yeah.
Those casualties came from Israeli airstrikes. I'm just wondering, what is your message as a humanitarian chief? Surely you have a message.
My message is don't kill civilians and don't kill humanitarians. These are the basic rules of war.
Yeah, you can hear the idea of shit in the pants right now. Statements like that. But well put from Mehdi. I'll send anyway. So, definitely deserve answers where that's concerned. Right, onto the elections, people. Do let me know your thoughts on those clips and stuff in the chat or in the comments if you watch back later. Just got to check. Do have the intro vid. It's here somewhere. I might just have to quickly re-upload that. I'll go over the hot seats and before that I've got some related clips and stuff back into UK politics. I don't know what the fuck's going on with this lack of intro. Bear with. Yeah, I'm just going to re-upload it. It's not that one. Where's it gone? Okay, we'll just go without the intro, I think. Just do the background music. Phil. Will be. Yeah, a couple of light-hearted clips now. We'll be kicking off with that trip down memory lane that I mentioned in the 2017 elections. Really, obviously, the majority was wiped out by none other than Jeremy Corbyn, of course. But yeah, a hung parliament, but you really still can't believe that anybody voted for them, considering this clip we're about to see. Sorry, still just trying to find the intro/outro video. It will be here somewhere. So I don't know if you might have already seen this back in 2017, but it's new to me, and if you've not seen this already, then enjoy it. This has not been altered in any way. Before I play it, I'll just sort of loosely describe it. Of course, choreographed entry into a room. You remember, of course, the robotic, repetitive statements that Theresa May used, the strong and stable, and all of that. So that's what the text mostly consists of. The thing is, he's clearly reading this from cue cards which are above the camera, because it's very obvious that he isn't looking, down the lens into the camera or anything. Just reading something that's slightly above the camera. And then, it gets even worse from there. There's a song, at the end. And whoever wrote this, if you are watching the stream, I would just like to ask, how do you sleep at night? Because can't even begin to describe how it's not only an insult to music itself, but anybody with a brain in the head or a nose about politics or whatever. But it's awful. See it for yourselves. So this was Greg Knight in his 2017 election campaign. No wonder it was an absolute wipeout for Theresa.
Hello, my name's Greg Knight. I'm the Conservative candidate for East Yorkshire. There's a general election on the 8th of June, and I hope, if you live in East Yorkshire, that you'll vote for me. When you vote in an election, you're doing two things. You're choosing who is your local representative, but you're also choosing a Prime Minister. I hope you'll vote for me and support Theresa May. We want a strong and stable government, not a coalition of chaos led by Jeremy Corbyn.
God. Wait, before the song comes in. Yeah. Definitely not reading that off a cue card. Prepare yourselves for the song. No, seriously, please do. Alright. Here we go.
Jeremy Corbyn.
You'll get accountability with Conservative delivery. Make sure this time you get it right. Vote for Greg Knight.
Jesus. Oh, fucking... Oh. Oh, fucking hell. That was awful. Oh my god. Oh. Yeah, how do you sleep? Whoever recorded, like the engineer, everybody who was involved. How do you sleep? You bastards. That was... Oh, God. I don't even... If you want to hear it again, you can skip the stream back. I'm not subjecting myself to it was like a fusion of the worst double glazing advert you ever heard on the radio against and I don't know the worst rejected B-sides from singles of the 1980s or something / early 90s, going off of production values of the music. And if it was written by Greg Knight himself, I wouldn't be entirely surprised, but if not, then imagine the moment it came back to him and he was like, yeah, that's a solid tune. We're gonna put that in the pipe local broadcast. For what was then, of course, the incumbent sitting government. Graham Turner kind of liked it, although I still don't think he'd ever vote for Tory. Terrible. I'm not sure if I just want to play it one more time out of morbid curiosity. Okay, go. Just try to skip to the song, but it's just there. And then the... So I'm just really sort of analysing this from a cinematography point of view as well, from, you know... And the storyboarding, or whatever, this wasn't fucking storyboarded, no way. But if it was, yeah, and then we're just going to have this really smooth and slow zoom up onto one of the posters on the wall, which are all obscurely lined up on different sizes just to piss off anybody with OCD. There's a random picture of something else on the left. What is that? Let's zoom in and enhance before we just... It looks like a random mugshot or from a photo booth or something. It's probably a picture of him stood with Thatcher or something like that. Yeah. Fuck. It's terrible, isn't it? Right. Again, brace yourselves. Especially if you're just joining us on stream. I didn't see this the first time, so... Yeah, the director thought himself some sort of genius with this absolute opus here. What we do, we'll get the song, and then the slow zoom in on the poster. There's no way in the universe that we occupy that people won't consider voting for Greg Knight after they've seen this. It's a masterpiece. Accountability. You can't. And another... Sorry, I'll just skip it back a bit further for the full thing. My final point as well, and I again, might have forgotten or whatnot, but the use of the word delivery going back as far as 2017 as well. And it's in the fucking song. Fucking bastards.
Jeremy Corbyn.
You'll get accountability with conservative delivery. Make sure this time you get it right. Vote for Greg Knight.
That's Greg Knight Carpets, open 7 PM, junction 15 off of... Oh. Delivery guaranteed within 12 hours. 10% off at Greg Knight Carpets. Oh, Lord. Right, yeah, we better fucking hurry up, because the official Beeb stream will have commenced.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Right, it'll just be a few moments while they're warming up and stuff. No need to dive in right away. We do have one more clip to go through. I can go through the hot seats as we get through proceedings. Just after this one, another one from the Canary. It's another one of those great vox pops where he stuns reform voters, this time in Kent.
That made you change your mind about reform?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I'd vote.
Reform say we are ready to govern. So we've come to Kent to find out how they run this county council. What do you think of the Reform Party?
Good. It's not a political party, rather, it's just a business. I'm a member.
So this is a meeting headed by the Reform leader of the council.
But I'm afraid you're just going to have to fucking suck it up, okay? Because I am the democratically elected leader.
Jesus Christ. That means bleeping.
So when Reform came to power, they started with 57 councillors. Yeah. They've lost 10 already because of infighting.
Sounds careless. They have much of an idea what they're doing, have they?
First thing they said was, we're going to reduce tax for people.
My tax has gone up.
But they've actually increased it by 4%.
Lies. Someone else will get my vote then, I reckon.
Since then, Nigel Farage says, we never said we'd cut tax.
Classic politician move.
And the latest thing he said was, we have reduced tax because we didn't increase it by the maximum.
Absolutely crazy.
Nonsense. Misinformation. I am actually reviewing my membership.
So what do you think he is?
Prat.
So they said they were going to cut waste.
Yeah.
However, if they just spent £600,000 on a car park with 8 spaces.
What?
For their own senior employees.
Beg thy pardon?
Where'd they get the money for that then?
They got big cars then.
Meanwhile, the first time ever, they're making council workers pay for their parking.
That's not good. It's a piss take.
They paid for Christmas lights to go up, but they couldn't put them up because they were a fire hazard, and they refused to remove the flags.
That's a joke. Again, a total waste of funds, isn't it?
Before, you thought they were doing an okay job. What do you think now?
Well, they ain't.
So, do you think they're ready to govern?
No.
They're not ready to govern themselves, let alone the entire country.
To be honest with you, again, it's the same order and like.
Might not look like it, but my hope is at the moment in the Green Party.
Yeah, same. That's the only one I support.
Vote Green.
Hey, well, I voted last.
Yeah.
Green Party.
Did you know? Has that made you change your...
Yeah, good for them. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that alarm. It's coming from outside. Don't worry, it's nothing here in the studio. Right, good. They must be watching the stream over there. I'll wave. Hi, thanks. Right. We'll dive over to the Beeb stream for a bit, and then we'll go through hot seats and things like that. Just very quickly though, here's the list before we take a look at individual polls and projections and things. Just a quick recap, a reminder. We've got the City of Manchester, Birmingham Council, Newcastle, Newham, Camden and Hackney, I think, are all going to be, or I'm hoping, for wins for the Greens. But of course, we can't just select a load that they're going to run away with. These are all on a knife edge. Birmingham, in fact, appears to be a three-way race between the Green Party, Labour and Reform, so we'll see how things develop. Just get this bookmark open here. 1 sec. It is going to be Kussenberg, unfortunately, hosting. I don't know who they've got on the panel. Just hope it isn't complete and utter crap. But you can never get your hopes up where these kind of broadcasts are concerned. Right, we'll see who's on. Just need to make sure. Hear everything. God, there she is on the thumbnail for the... You can't see it, but with a stupid bloody grin on as well. Right, here we go.
Willingness before we see the results of some of his rivals actually to find the courage, or some people might say the madness, to try and unseat him.
So this date has been in their diaries and in their conversations within the first paragraph of almost any
no results after
any
18, well, an hour and 18 minutes.
And they would say, May, wait until May. They've been saying that
just turn this
since
down.
Well before Christmas. But here we are, we're in May, and these results are soon going to start coming, and the party is going to have to take a decision. And if they decide not to do something, that is a decision as well.
Yeah, just while they're
and whoever I speak to,
yabbering away there for a moment.
At whatever level, there is an acknowledgement that this is a crunch moment. That out of these results, which they anticipate to be dire, frankly, they are going to have to decide. Do they decide to
just see what the latest on our poll is.
Either a collective will or the will from a potential challenger to go for it. But that's
how many seats are they going to lose?
And it's risky for the party. And there's plenty within the party who are either saying, no, we've got to give the Prime Minister...
most of you still think between 1,500 and 1,999.
But he's not an MP, so that would take time. So all of that's into the mix.
And very often when it is a moment that's so anticipated, actually, nothing happens, and it's unexpected moments that can be end up being the real moments and the jeopardy.
Completely, and until even just a couple of weeks ago, plenty of Labour folk were saying that
push it as far as we can go before everything crashes. I think we're doing all right at the moment.
Which was more unexpected than a date circled in the diary in May. When
oh God, it's okay. So Chris Mason,
real genuine jeopardy for him. Plenty in Labour folk I was
talking to Laura Kussenberg.
We've looked over the cliff.
Between the pair of them, none of them really have a clue what's going on in the country at the moment.
We've decided not, but then since...
Just skip forward to make sure we're absolutely live.
Results, the expectation, every single poll and every single person in the Conservative Party themselves you speak to say, actually, we're probably going to still be losing.
Any shout-outs in the chat for what you think the first
so here you have in Kemi Badenoch,
result to be called will be? Just a random chance at which council you think is going to be called first?
Has been leader during a period of time where the Conservatives' poll ratings have gone backwards, and where
that is councils, not councillors. I'm not expecting you to know all the individual names and wards and boroughs, but Yeah,
She's safe.
out of all the major
the party
councils that are being fought
plenty
for,
of people I speak to in the party think she's found her mojo. She's
I'll
got
be
used
very
to being the
biased
leader.
and say
She's
Manchester, although I know that
outruling her own party,
the North East do
in
get
terms of
quite
popularity.
competitive,
But
so
they are going to go. They are in all likelihood
possibly
backwards in these results.
Newcastle
From
or
their
Sunderland,
perspective,
something like
they have
that.
the good fortune
They are both
of going backwards in a set of elections
holding
where the governing
elections
party is likely to take an even greater
this evening.
step backwards and therefore dominate the headlines. But it doesn't take away from the fact that into the medium term, the next couple of years.
Just
the
going to
challenges
actually
for the
listen to
Conservatives
what
with
Chris Mason's saying
rising,
for a moment.
Reform at a time when opposition parties ought to be going forwards, not backwards, are still profound.
A very brief word of the Liberal Democrats.
They expect to make some gains, some modest gains in the next hours and days in those pockets where they made gains at the Conservatives' expense at the general election, places like Surrey and Hampshire. So I think there'll be places where Ed Davey can head along to and smile, but I think they are aware that in this set of results, they're not going to be the sort of national headline makers that plenty of others will be.
Oh, they're going to be plenty of headlines, that's for sure. Yes. Chris, thanks so much. Well, we can we can show you what's happening in all sorts of parts of England tonight. There you can see Newcastle-under-Lyme, Lincoln and Basildon, but just a snippet of intelligence that is reaching us from our reporter who's on the ground there in Basildon in Essex. A senior Conservative councillor in Basildon has told the BBC on the ground they believe that Reform might have won all 14 seats being counted tonight in Basildon in Essex. Now, as things stand, no one party is in charge of that. That's not a good and because not the whole council is actually up for election tonight, it's not possible for any one party to actually have a majority. But
of course,
on the ground in Basildon, it sounds
the
like
media aren't allowed to
absolutely stormed it. But of
report
course,
until after the polls have
we can still see people standing anxiously around.
closed. So
once there's actually a
we'll see if there are any more rumours, stories.
And as the election unfolds, we'll be putting together all the small jigsaw pieces into the overall picture. But that overall picture will not actually be clear until the second half of tomorrow. So remember, tonight we are looking at about 40 English council results that will be coming in between now and 6 a.m. And Rita is keeping an eye on all
isn't on the
them.
hot seats list, just to
detail. We've had a snippet there.
Remind you.
But the kind of overall big picture is looking very worrying for the two big traditional.
Yeah, I'll actually say that Newcastle,
Laura. In fact, let
the
me
Newcastle
show you how
council
the
result will come in
polls have
first.
changed since the last time these seats were
Hackney,
fought,
is that a
which was
guess?
4 years ago in 2022. So if I take you back to
Is that a guess, Edward?
we start here. And this is what we're used to seeing, isn't it? The domination of the two main parties, Labour and the Conservatives. And at the time, Labour was riding
the BBC are going to explain macro trends to us like we're 5.
Them and the Conservatives. And that went on being the case
Aren't we lucky?
until the general election 2 years ago. And then you can see Labour's support starting to dip quite dramatically. The Conservatives coming up a bit before they begin to tail off. And you have the pale blue line, the light blue line, I should call it, of Reform UK now starting to overtake the two main parties from sometime in 2025. And we bring it here to the present day, which is just about here, where you see Reform is comfortably leading all the other 4 parties, maybe with a little dip in recent times, but still comfortably ahead. Labour and the Conservatives just sort of bumping along here. And a word for the Greens, who've also seen a rise in recent months. Now, let's
at least
take a look at some of
they'll
the
actually
councils
mention
that
them.
we're going to be watching closely. These won't all necessarily declare tonight, but we will get some of them. Now, they're all Labour councils. You can tell because of the red flashes here at the side, and none of them have declared
That's
yet
a crap list. Hot
grey,
seats. That's
change.
the list.
The colours will all change.
That's the best
as we
list.
get results in. Now, Labour have a lot to lose tonight because they are defending by far and away the most number of seats, 2,500 seats,
Yes,
compared to the Conservatives' 1,300. So look at some of these the heartlands, Labour heartlands like Sunderland, Gateshead, Hartlepool, where Peter Mandelson had his Westminster seat, Wakefield, they're all under severe threat from Reform.
That's the list.
In Blackburn, Reform are on the rise, but there are also independents who could threaten Labour as well. Moving a little further south into the Midlands, in Redditch and in Tamworth, Reform are also a threat.
In Birmingham,
Oh,
which
Birmingham's
is the
on the
biggest
list.
council by far, 101 councillors there. There are all sorts of issues, including a bin strike that's gone on for months
101
and months.
seats to be
Reform
fought
are on the
for in
rise
Birmingham.
there, but there are also pro-Gaza independents who could threaten Labour in Birmingham. We'll be watching
they said
Lincoln.
Gaza.
We'll be looking at Exeter, where the Greens have strong hopes of putting in a good showing in Exeter. And in these London borough councils that we have here at the end, the Greens are actually hoping to take inner city Hackney and possibly even Lambeth.
Well, would be good if they did.
Tall order for them in Lambeth, but they
Yeah,
do feel that
Hackney's
they've got a good chance.
on the list as well.
In Merton,
Go
which
Greens.
is on the corner of London, it's the Liberal Democrats who are hoping
I can bring
to
these
come
up
in and
as we
really
watch, I guess.
challenge Labour there.
That's what they're there for.
Westminster and Wandsworth, well, these are two iconic councils for the Conservatives.
Just got a bit of buffering. Sorry, bear with.
Labour came in and swooped them off the Conservatives last time round, and particularly.
Let's get back to live. Yeah, bit of buffering here.
We've got the backdrop of the crisis and the Iran war, the Strait of Hormuz.
Call systems of return now. Sorry, we have simultaneous
that people can feel
bufferage on YouTube Studio
amidst already a cost of living crisis.
on the player.
And of course, there's been the Peter Mandelson issue. So, for lots of reasons, good Labour
The Peter Mandelson issue. That's how he describes it. A bit more than an issue.
Local messages, you know, waiting lists down, public services.
You should still be able to hear it.
Communities brought together, pride of place. But notwithstanding that, the picture is tough.
But you were already significantly unpopular in the polls before the latest conflict in the Middle East, before the
they were
saga,
absolutely
mess and embarrassment
way down
over
there
Peter
before.
Mandelson. And this is more than a little local difficulty. It looks like you are going to have another tough time in Scotland.
Should be smoother.
Multiple sources have told our colleagues in BBC Wales that you're going to lose the SENEDD. A former Welsh minister
Didn't have my hopes up for who they'd have on the panel. Lammy.
I mean, this is not just a little local difficulty midterm, is it?
Well, let's be clear. You know, you don't get rid of the pilot mid-flight because of a bit of turbulence.
A bit of turbulence.
Incumbent governments face.
I think it's
tough
a bit beyond that, David.
Back in 1999, 2 years after we won that landslide with Tony
please
Blair,
let me know how the audio
faced a
levels
very
are,
poor
by the way.
Election results. The Cameron government,
Hope you can
successive local
hear me okay over
elections
David Lammy.
up to 2014,
I'm sure you'd rather
losing
listen to me than
still
David
going
Lammy
on
as well.
actually
That
to win a
didn't happen in
majority
2011, actually. And it didn't happen to
Oh yeah, I was going to bring up
2015 or 2017, and we can, you know, we can
Hackney, wasn't
trade archaeological facts
That's
about
not
politics if you like, but
Lammy's
you're
seat.
not going to deny that you're in a very, very
Just one
tough
dimension
spot.
back there.
No, I said the clear picture.
So that looks very good for the Greens at the moment.
It was tough on the doorstep.
And just to confirm, that's the Birmingham
hearing from the British people is
three-way race.
Frustration with the status quo. They want change. Many of them have experiencing
if you want to let us know
standards since 2000.
where you're watching from
and
and who you voted for in the chats, it's entirely up to you. But
recognise we're 20 months in. But having
yeah,
said that,
we'll
it is true that sometimes
keep an eye out for
the achievements
your area.
Eclipsed by the mistakes, and we do need to address that in the coming months.
Okay, I'm going to ask you how you'll address that a little bit later. I just want to welcome David Bull from Reform UK, who's joined us, who's smuggled in during our first chat with David Lammy. Firstly, let's just go to you then.
Did they smuggle him in a big brown envelope?
We've heard from our reporter on the ground, it sounds like in Basildon you're going to win all of the seats. Do you think, is that true? Is that what you...
I mean, look, I think it's worth remembering the rise of this party has been nothing more than...
Yeah, so they just said
we're 4 years old. It's worth
potentially all 14 seats in
we're now the largest party, the fastest growing party, the most talked about party. We only have 8 MPs, and yet I've been campaigning around the country. I've seen 30,000 people in Hull, the Isle of Wight, in Liverpool. It doesn't matter, Wales, Scotland, across the United Kingdom. And what people are saying is two-party politics are dead. The Labour Party is in serious trouble. The Conservatives, I think, are in trouble as well. I think in terms of us tonight, what does success look like? If we were to win...
Yeah, the only way the Tories can say they've strategically won is no one's going to be really talking about their losses tomorrow. It's all going to be about Labour. They're going to sort of be sweeping their losses under the carpet. Because hopefully they'll be talking about how many gains the Green Party have made as well. They will be mentioning reform. I'm not, you know, under any disillusion that reform are going to have success this evening as well.
We've led the last 250 polls, at least last 250 polls. We're polling consistently at 27, 28, 29%. That is extraordinary. And I think when you're on the doorstep, I start talking about potholes and roads and council tax rises.
I just talk about any old crap that's...
They want to talk about the dysfunctional Labour government. They want to talk about the decimation of small industries. They want to talk about the rise in energy costs because of net zero. They want to talk about the fact the communities are fragmenting, the pubs shutting, all of that. So this, make no mistake, is a referendum on the Labour Party.
David Lammy?
Oh, look, I mean...
It's not, it's a local election. Come on.
Come in.
You could also argue it's a referendum on complicity and genocide, if you're going to make that argument.
Party doing extremely well in the European elections. It then all fell away by the time you get to the proper elections. So,
sorry about the chat window lagging. I'll try and keep up with it.
5, 6 parties now instead of the traditional 2. All parties, when they govern, are effectively a coalition. We have to continue to be a coalition in the Labour Party, and we have to hear the frustration of the British people.
Richard Holden, David Bull said that you're in big trouble, the Conservatives, tonight. What's your answer to him?
Well, look, you know, these elections are 2 elections really coming out together, one from 2022 and one from 2021. There's 2021 numbers. We were on 43% in the polls. Now, I think all the political parties are currently looking back to any party on those numbers, you know, from a way down below that at the moment. So I think from those numbers, you know, there's obviously going to be some significant losses in parts of the country.
Significant losses?
Well, I mean, you know, you've looked at what's look at what's out there. I mean, Zia Youssef was tweeting just you know, recently saying Reform are going to be getting over 2,200 seats in these elections. You know, I don't know if they'll quite get that high.
You're going to lose like
80%
of them.
43% to where we are now. Now, that was just after Boris had come out of hospital.
Yes, but lots of these.
His name's Alexander, not Boris.
Yes,
so
and actually, exactly. And on those ones, well, let me speak about the 2022.
And as we watch live,
is also that's when a lot of London.
yeah, still most of you thinking
well, and as David was saying,
over 1,500, but not quite 2,000.
Like Wandsworth and Westminster, where
that's second to more than 1,000, but not quite 1,500, and 26% for 2,000 or more, just 9% for under 1,000 seats.
But I just wonder, you know, your leader has had nearly 2 years in charge now, and the party might be more chipper in Westminster. But why are you not doing better in the polls?
2 years.
Well, I think that
2 long starry years on top of 14
so I think that's
long.
That would be fair to say.
Tory years.
Over, and is now coming up in a positive way on the doorstep, in a way that actually people are.
But you've just said you're going to have significant losses, and that's real votes. That matters much
significant
more
losses
than
compared to 2021, and when we were at 43%. Now, no party's at 43% at the moment, so you know that's going to be seen in that context.
Okay, well, David Bull's put a number on the seats that he's given us a seat range. How many do you expect to lose?
I wouldn't want to put a number on it at this stage. We'll have to start.
Go on, give us a number.
Real results coming through.
Okay, Richard.
Come on, stream and vote in the poll.
I mean, your party has had a huge fizz in the polls in the last couple of months, but a very tricky couple of days in terms of your leader, Zach Plansky. What's your expectation as polls have closed tonight?
Well, I think this is an exciting election for us. We're coming into it, say, with more membership than we've ever had, but I mean, pretty much quadrupled over 8 months. We've gone from about 60,000 in September, October to 230,000 now. And we have gone up in the polls, and you can see in the
very glad that they
earlier that it's
at least got someone from the Greens on.
Reform. If
that was going to be a Tory or a Lib Dem.
People who are feeling such dissatisfaction and anger in the status quo, and it is a lot to do with the horrifying cost of living and this kind of raging inequality. And I think people have felt angry, felt
So they have got the
dissatisfied,
three
and some people have turned to reform,
potentially
and I
biggest
think other
parties
people,
on,
once we kind of have come on the scene
as
with
it
much
were.
stronger leadership and messaging, people have realised that actually there's an alternative.
Nothing
that's
in yet. Come on,
place.
Newcastle.
And we
Count.
are, you know, we would
Count
make a
like the
difference to
wind.
ordinary people's lives,
Wind
bring
doesn't
those
count,
bills
does
down,
it?
combat that inequality.
It's not
which
capable
actually
of
isn't what reform
counting.
will do.
It's
We're funded by billionaires, and
a
that's
natural
part of the
force.
establishment. You take the leftovers from Conservatives, but. And so I think people have
Not
gotten
a
board with that message. It's been really
force in the Newtonian
wonderful
sense,
and
of course.
energising, be it out in the streets, like up and down the country, rurally and in the cities, and just the kind of
But just count
the joy
quickly.
of people coming together and saying, you know, we're not an island of strangers. We're a nation of neighbours, and let's get out there and make hope. People who've never been involved in politics before have been getting out on the streets with us. It's been fantastic.
Some people haven't found it very joyful when the views that some of your candidates have expressed, with incredibly offensive views.
Oh, give over, Laura.
That they've expressed.
Oh, she's starting this now.
Found that joyful.
There's a clear message of hope, and she just wants to piss all over it with her agenda.
They're in our disciplinary system, and that is something that we're dealing with. Absolutely. I mean, that's been incredibly painful and difficult. But
She's right.
It will be dealt with.
That is the Green candidate.
Well, there's going to be plenty more debate around the table in the next couple of hours, but let's take you, as promised, straight to counts. Let's talk to Simon Dedman, our reporter, who is in Basildon.
Good response as well.
Thanks for joining us. Now, we had a snippet earlier that a senior Conservative on the ground said that Reform appears to have won all 14 seats there. Fill us in.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm being told by a senior Conservative, but also from an independent councillor as well, that they believe that all 14 seats
Is the count taking place in a helium facility?
Won by Reform UK, which would be a real landslide, and what is often a classic.
Or is Joe Pasquale doing the dubbing or something?
The Conservatives and Labour, but now
That's real voice.
winning seats in both their parts of this borough. Now,
I don't. They've sped the footage up, surely.
Is still underway. Reform UK
Well, I'll tell you.
a little bit more cautious on the ground. They do think that they're going to win a landslide amongst the seats that are up here tonight, but they don't necessarily know if they're going to take them all. If they did win all 14 seats that are up here in Basildon, it would make them the largest party. But of course, as it's only a third of the seats that are up, they're then going to have to, if they can form an administration, do so with others. And that could be very, very tricky. Think about the sort of hung parliament that we had at the end of the last decade. That's what's going to happen here at the local level. And it has
I'll just
been
turn it
quite
up a bit on the player.
campaign here on the ground. And this is going to be a big test, of course, for, in particular, two National Party leaders who are Essex MPs, Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch. Kemi Badenoch just this week, in the last days of this campaign, manning a station in Billericay within this borough, trying to bolster support for her Conservative Party, which, you know, she's described Essex as her home. And Nigel Farage has also been out in this county as well. Just one other bit of intel to bring you so far. What I am hearing across Essex tonight is
the same goes for Labour as well. If they're trying to get people to vote for them by sending out any member of the current cabinet, that's only going to hinder the chances. You certainly don't want Rachel Reeves rapping on your door
Thank you so much. And turnouts of
like so many
mystery ingredient when it comes
Edgar
to
Allan Poe's.
Different parties in different ways, whether it is low or high. Just before we go to Wandsworth in London, as it happens, Richard Holden.
I wish you would go to Wandsworth, but
your constituency, isn't it?
Well, actually, the Basildon Borough covers my constituency and also a large part of the South Basildon and East Thurrock constituency.
Yes.
The prison.
So if Reform wins either all of or nearly all of the seats up for grabs in Basildon tonight,
well,
what does that say about how your local area have a view of you?
Well, I think, well, as I said, there's already a former Reform MP there, but I think he left the party after some issues in the south of the borough as well. UKIP did very well in the council elections in 2014 as well, I think, in the Basildon borough, where they won, I think, most of the seats in that election well, and then obviously went on to lose at the next round of elections as well. So I think let's not take anything for granted. Also, these are very early reports with no votes being counted. So, you know, let's just, I think we should take all of these reports at this stage with a pinch of
course, and
salt.
it is early in the evening. However, I think some voters, and we know when election watchers have got long memories, And people might remember we all watched the pictures of you pacing around up and down at your general election count. I'm sure it's not a happy memory for you, but it was one of the very interesting. Well, you did, but only with a majority of 20.
Well, 20 is plenty. There's in those London boroughs. Which
oh no! Oh yeah! Let's not. We're all great pals and jokes.
But it is pretty. That would be a big deal, would it not? I mean,
as I said, in 2014, you know.
Having a laugh with their client journalist friends, of course.
And then they went back a year or two later. Let's just see what happens. The turnout, I think the turnout question is very interesting, because that's something I noticed as well. There was also a very big turnout early doors in the postal votes earlier in the campaign, which we noticed a couple of weeks ago. And that was before some of these newest, more recent stories like the £5 million that Mr Farage has been took before the general election, but from this crypto billionaire, before that sort of story started to play into the campaign.
So you think that might have damaged reform in the last few days?
Well, it certainly was being brought up in the last few days, but wasn't a few weeks ago.
What do you think? Taking a bribe from a dodgy crypto guy might be a bad thing. I'm going to guess yes, Laura.
One of the best-known politicians. I will correct that slightly. But
do you think no member of the public is bothered that a politician took £5 million from somebody?
No, what I was going to say was that
nobody cares about that at all.
He wasn't an MP at the time.
He was an MP very shortly after.
He was, but
maybe she's listening to me.
£5 million was £5 million was given to Nigel for his personal security. Remember,
if you are listening to me, Laura, then resign on air now. Do it immediately. I'm taking over on Sundays.
And that was a
well,
donation to him as a friend. He was not standing at that time.
Earlier.
He did not intend to stand at
that
that time.
Scratch that.
And our understanding
you're going to quit.
Is that he didn't have to declare that.
You're going to get, so I'll find you a host.
Can investigate, and that, as far as I'm concerned, is the end of that matter.
Zara Sultana.
It was a donation. He had originally, the party said it was a personal gift.
It was a gift.
And anyone who stands as an MP are meant to declare things that they've received in the run-up to becoming an MP, not just from the moment they're elected. So, that's why this is important.
So we believe that it's not an issue, but it is a matter for IPSA, and if IPSA
parliamentary
for the parliamentary authorities.
Right, we're still waiting for the first results to come in, so we will come back to that in a moment. I just want to go through one or two other bits relating to the elections themselves. Of course, while the Reform guys yabbering away to Laura Kussenberg, I don't think we're going to miss out on any great nuggets of information or inspiration where they're concerned. But obviously the slurs against Zach Polanski have unfortunately continued. The Telegraph now have been complicit with this one. This example I want to share here. Again, the same fascist tropes that we saw in Germany with their anti-Semitic literature in the 1930s and 40s. Of course, didn't do so well towards the mid-40s as an organisation. Yeah. But Polanski's now addressed this in a video, which I think we should take a look at, because that, again, like the similar one with, was it the Times? Times printed a cartoon. The Daily Mail, I think, had some sort of article out. But they're all, disgusting, revolting examples. This is the real anti-Semitism. So, 1 minute they'll be accusing even Zach Polanski himself of being anti-Semitic, and the next, literally, publishing cartoons that are indecipherable, no different from the ones I was referring to, except they're in colour and not black and white, of course, like I said before. This is what Polanski's had to say in response.
It's not acceptable that people have made anti-Semitic comments. I also think, by the way, it's not acceptable that some of the political parties have used anti-Semitism as a political football. It's a sensitive issue that needs to be treated with care. I do want to thank the Labour MPs that have shown solidarity. There's been several anti-Semitic caricatures of me in the last 48 hours in the press, including a terrible one from the Times, which they've still not apologised for. And I do thank the Labour MPs, I think, who are showing leadership in saying, even though we're from different political parties, we need to show cross-party working on this and make sure we stamp out anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, all forms of hate crime from our society. I think the kind of using it to score political points has been pretty grim in this election. And as a Jewish person and someone who's very committed to an anti-racist party, it's been deeply upsetting.
Yeah, of course, Trevor Phillips' response to that would be, oh, don't try that old trick on me, or whatever his actual words were. I might be slightly paraphrasing there, but you get the gist. Ignoring genuine Jewish voices like Zach Polanski's in favour of only pushing the Zionist pro-Israel agenda. And the real anti-Semitism is happening in front of our very eyes with these revolting caricatures. You shouldn't even be allowed to publish something like that. And like I said with the other example, this got through an editor, this got through publishers, printing offices, so on and so forth. What is the point of regulators if everything's after the fact, when the damage is already done? There needs to be more preventative regulation in journalism, and that doesn't mean I'm trying to prevent a free press. You just obviously shouldn't be allowed to print such imagery as this. Specifically, obviously talking about imagery as opposed to the subject that's been reported on, because of course I do believe in a free press, but I don't believe in a racist press with an agenda. That's not freedom. That's just lies. That's propaganda. Really sick example. Yeah, but well responded to by Polanski. Here's another one, just on how very badly things are going to go for Labour this evening. I don't know if you saw this snippet from Channel 4 with Gary Gibbon, who found out apparently behind the scenes, behind closed doors, Labour candidates have been elected not to cry in front of the press if they lose their seats. Yeah. So they've gone from all of the great bounding confidence that they declared when they won the last general election. The politics have changed, so on and so forth, and now this is what they've been reduced to. You can't get upset if you lose, and if you visibly cry, what, they're going to get dragged off to a gulag or something in Starmer's Britain.
The message from people around him is he won't be resigning after these results, and he won't be accepting a timetable for a resignation that might be prevented to him. I hear that Labour agents, as part of the choreography around tomorrow night, are telling any activists who go to the counts where there are cameras, don't go talking to those cameras, and please don't cry on camera. This is a recipe for an uprising. Will there be an uprising? At the moment, Labour MPs, backbenchers, seem to be saying, well, you ministers, you need to go in and tell him to lift up the revolver, whereas you can find quite a few ministers saying, well, it's up to the backbenchers. So don't rule out stalemate.
So they can't cry. Not show any emotion. That's the harsh truth of it, Keith. Not going to be a good night for Keith.
Oh, God.
Another one. See if you can spot what's wrong with this particular clip. I'll play it first. Just in case you miss it the first time. I'll play it again and highlight what's wrong. There's no audio. Well, there should be, actually. Just one. Go back to the start. Sorry about that, just couldn't hear that myself. There we go. into the luxury shipping container voting booth. Although that's probably what they class as a classroom these days, isn't it? A lot of schools and so on and so forth become polling centres. So in he goes. He's about to go in, posing for the press. Got his poll card. Yep, double check. You need ID now because, yeah, fascist state and whatnot. So you need to take your photo ID. He's remembered his photo ID there. Of course, that's only in England, not in Scotland or Wales. Quite recent legislation as well. Of course, a tactic to try and prevent poor people from voting. So see if you can spot what's wrong. I'm not saying it's an AI video or anything. There's just something inconsistent, shall we say. And I'm not talking about any sort of editing or things like that. Let's just see it again. Mr. Farage, could we just yeah, twat smile, thank you very much. Just we'll call him Nige. I bet that was the guy from the fucking Sun, wasn't it? Cretins. But yes, what's this? The photo ID is chosen as his passport. But what colour is it? People. It's burgundy. What happened to the leaving the EU and get our blue passports back? And all of this, apparently that was supposed to be one of the major benefits of leaving the single market and customs union, wasn't it, Nigel? And here you are with an EU passport. Burgundy. Of course, you've got a German passport, haven't you? And English is your wife and children's second language, isn't it, Nigel? So no patriotic blue passport? Really? Well, yeah. What happened to that? What happened to that, Nigel? It's there. It's clear as day, unless I've gone temporarily colourblind, and I certainly haven't, because you can see for yourselves that the passport clashes with his green shirt, orange tie, and, of course, luminous yellow sunglasses there. So there, yeah. Thank you for making an absolute tit out of yourself and proving yourself to be a liar and a hypocrite yet again. Shout out to Politics in the UK for that footage as well. Burgundy passports all round in the Farage household. And he'll still have the absolute gall to stand at a lectern and con a bunch of people into leaving the EU based on the colour of your passport. Which is what most people said, and there was the thing about the bendy bananas as well, of course. There's reasons. Right. We'll pop back across, I think, to the live feed. See what comes up. Don't forget, of course, to keep a lookout as well for the sort of semi-unofficial hot seat of Tower Hamlets, where the Green Party are currently chasing a party who go by the name of Aspire.
A what? What? Okay. Who's that guy? Who? What are you, a fucking owl?
That's an estimate for Tower Hamlets at the moment, but look at the gains being made by the Greens. Over 16%. So let's see if they've had the time to catch them since that estimate came into play. And I'm going to go back over live to the Kostenberg Cam.
The pace of change. We have to respond to the frustration that people are seeing. No doubt about that. I think that what they have seen is a Prime Minister
all the zeros at the bottom so
very good
far.
Internationally, has delivered for Britain and stood up on the world stage.
Don't say deliver, David. I have a complex at this stage.
Has been slower than people wanted. Now, look, we've only been in power 20
He's an asshole,
months. When I see those breakfast clubs in schools, when I see people lifted up because of the minimum wage, when I think of the children who will not be beneath the poverty line because of the decision we made on the two-child benefit cap, that will deliver change, of course. But I recognise, particularly with what's going on in the Middle East, that people are feeling it. They've been feeling it since 2008. They're frustrated, and we cannot be the status quo. We have to be the insurgents.
But what is it you're going to do differently?
Well, we have the King's speech next week, and I know that the Prime Minister will be saying more about this in the coming days and setting out that bold vision that's required.
Well, what is it? Because I've heard in this studio, in our
he hasn't got any answers.
Times, Labour politicians
Laura,
say,
there's no point in asking, even at this stage. You're just going to hear that same delivery with sprinkles of change rhetoric.
We must do things a bit differently.
They haven't had
Everyone's
to,
already lost count with the number of resets.
they haven't been able to vent
already. You're sitting here tonight before we've got
at the PMQs this week, so he's probably,
more. We must accelerate things.
they're all keeping it bottled up for
I want to balance that. I don't think the 3,000 neighbourhood
going to get absolutely
owned
things
going wrong
tonight.
I don't think waiting lists falling in the NHS, coming down in A&E 3 years now. I don't think that's going wrong. But clearly, there is more to do to repair the public services. And it's true that sometimes people have not heard the hope. They've heard how hard it is to deliver. They've not heard the hope. They've not heard the vision. Right,
I'm going to mute that for a moment just while I bring this up. Speaking of Labour in London, we had a quick look at a couple of places there. Have you seen this from London Labour? This is from their official social media. Completely and utterly pathetic attempt. They've started this so-called Greens Exposed campaign, and in this case, obviously they're doing it like some sort of criminal file. That's the theme, that's the format that they're going for. So they picked out the Green candidate for Lambeth, Brixton, in this example. Let's take a look. Just zoom in a bit closer so we can all just see. There's Carlotta Allen in the Windrush area, who in the past was a victim of a drug smuggling gang and used as a drugs mule. But the Labour Party, instead of coming into this election with any sense of decorum whatsoever, would seek to criticise, nay, pretend to expose somebody who's been a victim. It's really quite ludicrous. She ended up serving a prison sentence for trying to smuggle in 10,000 tablets, 10,000 E's, and was caught. And there you go. And obviously, she's been very open about this, talked about how she was victimised by this. London Labour seem to want to treat this as some sort of expose, and of course, trying to organise a pile-on against someone who's been a victim is completely abhorrent. So that's the first example. I can see Lammy's still going away at it there in the background, I think. So, yeah, just while he's still going on. We know what we're going to get from Lammy. It's not going to stop him getting absolutely hammered. First example there. Second one, Laura Louise Fairley from Hackney Hackney Council, Hackney Downs. And this one is just as bad, if not arguably even more pathetic, because they appear to be trying to expose something that is in fact in the Green Party manifesto. They've gone through a great amount of trouble to research this one. Yeah, so the accusation that they're making in this huge air quotes expose piece are that Laura Louise supports prescribing the IDF as a terrorist organisation and expressed support for Bob Villan, who chanted death to the IDF at Glastonbury. So the prescription of the IDF is, of course, Green Party policy. At the moment, they do recognise that the IDF are a terrorist organisation, which they are. They're war criminals as well. And as far as death to the IDF goes, if somebody said, I think this example was made, was it Ashok Kumar the other day? For example, if someone shouted death to Putin or death to Russia to rally, would we be hearing such outrage? You know, if I say death to Nazis, is that bad? Just where are they drawing the line? What's the distinction that they're trying to make? But yeah, claiming to have discovered and exposed something that is in fact in the manifesto isn't real journalism. So we'll just turn the volume on now because the Green Rep is back up.
The problem,
that's
the reason why we're not doing
Deputy
the
Leader, by the way,
is that there's so much profit baked into everything.
I mean, David, you said you deliver change. You've certainly done that.
Oh,
I mean,
no,
the
they're
small
going back to Lammy.
businesses I speak to, they're hemorrhaging staff. The
It sounded like it was
insurance
about wealth
contribution
inequality.
has absolutely
I've obviously
hammered
been
them. The energy costs
talking
have
about
hammered
that
them as well.
quite a lot over the
farmers
years,
have been
but
attacked with the inheritance
furthermore
tax
recently,
changes. A third of farms make a loss. The fishermen and the
we'd
fishing
take back power and
communities have
stuff.
been
Check out recent
decimated. We've signed
content.
away our rights
James
for
Holmes,
another
thanks a lot
12
for
years, and
the
you're in hock to the
5
trade
gifted
unions. Here we go
memberships
again.
as well.
Oh, look, come on.
Let's
By the way,
adjust
what you
the
didn't tell
target
us about
Solidarity
that
for that,
5
brother.
million
Really
was
appreciate the
given-
support as
given it came
always.
from crypto, then the
Come and give
reason
James
to
a shout
declare
out in the
it so that
chat if
people
we've not
can
done so
see
already,
that.
please, people.
What are they getting in return if you win? What are you giving to that part of big business? That's the answer you
But
didn't
you're
give
in
us.
power and you're not delivering.
So it
in
doesn't
fact,
matter.
people don't recognise
They're
this.
going to have an argument over the word deliver.
20 months.
We've got more time for you guys to have this quiet little shy conversation that you've been enjoying. But we also want to make sure that we are showing you what's happening around the country. And there you can see the live pictures of the count in Basildon and Essex we've been talking about. The count is getting underway in Reading too. There are all sorts of fascinating battles. Rita, some of them could be really quite painful for the Conservatives. You've given us a close-up look of the Labour councils at stake, but what about the Conservative ones? And oh, you've got a
This
lovely
is the
big
hot
total for
list.
everybody.
I've got a big total first, and then I'll get to the
I'm going to
Conservatives.
keep plugging the
Laura.
hot list.
Yeah, I just
They
wanted
will
to
use
show
it
you
eventually.
what is at stake for each of the main parties.
Well,
so,
Lefty's hot
as
list
you can
says this,
see,
you know.
It's
I don't know.
Labour that has by far and away the largest number of seats to defend tonight.
So they're going to do a projection
2,500.
here?
That's about half
Or,
of all the council seats that Labour has in
Sorry.
England. So a lot at stake
Put it
for
on
Sir
max
Keir
quality, I
Starmer
don't know
and
what
his
we can
party.
get.
Conservatives are defending about half that number on just over 1,300. And that actually is an inflated number for this point in the cycle because, as John Curtis said, there are 6 county councils that would normally have been having elections last year. They're having them this year. So 1,300 for the Conservatives. Sir Ed Davies smiling, as he often does, on local election night because the Lib Dems traditionally do pretty well in local elections. He's defending 600.
These are seats defended, not total seats contested, by the way.
More in the southwest of England and also in the southwest of London.
So, for example, in
Independents
the
on
Greens' case, they're
178 seats. Now, their
fielding a lot
influence
more
is
candidates
concentrated in certain areas
than
like
they
Blackburn
already
or
have
Birmingham, where they really can be
elected.
quite a disruptive force. Zach Polanski's Green Party on 146. They'll be hoping to pick up
there you go.
considerably
Reform.
more than that.
Only defending
And
2, they are,
Reform
of
on 2
course,
seats, and you might be asking yourself, well, we
fielding
thought
more
that
than
Reform
2
was much stronger than
candidates.
that. That's because last time these seats were up, which was in 2022.
Is that another 5,
Reform
James?
indeed
Oh, you're too
only
kind.
had 2 seats.
But
They
we
were
always
barely,
appreciate
a little
the
speck
generosity.
on the electoral map. Right, Laura's question
Nice one,
about
brother.
Conservative councils to watch.
121.
Here are a crop
Let's
of
take
them.
the total.
They won't all necessarily declare tonight, but some of them will. So we'll be watching these
A double shout
councils
out,
like
please,
Kensington and
in the
Chelsea
chat.
and Broxbourne, which have been Conservative for decades and decades. Here are some of those county councils that we've been mentioning: Norfolk, Essex,
Let's see if
Hampshire,
Peasants Revolt
Suffolk over there
can
in
get
the
a
middle.
hit.
They're all
Sorry to hear.
counting,
They still haven't
counting over the next
found a
few
job yet.
hours. Then Conservative councils like Bexley, which is in southeast London. Now,
but
that's been
yeah, keep the
Conservative
shots
for
coming in,
quite a
please,
while.
people.
Reform are nipping at
Thanks
their
again,
heels,
James.
and we'll be hoping to make inroads there, potentially
we always
even taking
appreciate
Bexley.
you watching, whether
Council
you
like
remember
West
or not, of
Sussex,
course.
Reform are also a threat to the Conservatives, as are the Liberal Democrats. So a whole host of different contests going on in all of these Conservative councils, and we will, of course, bring you the results as soon as they come dribbling in. And just one more thing to show you, lots more on the BBC News website.
Hey, but
type in your postcode
come tomorrow,
to find out what's
Peasants
going on
Revolt,
in your area.
there'll
And
be a
it'll
lot of
come up
Conservative
with
and
the
Labour
website
councillors
address, but I'm sure
who'll
you
be
all know
joining
that
you
address
in
well.
the search for
Surely,
employment.
Thank you, Rita. Well, let's go straight to then one of those Conservative-held
So that's something to
councils.
take heart from.
Is where Reform hope to make some progress. Let's talk to Jenny Aiken, who's in Newcastle under Lyme in Staffordshire for us
Newcastle.
tonight. Hi, Jenny. Thank
Okay,
you for
this is a
being
hot
with
seat.
us.
Let's see what's happening.
What's the atmosphere there?
Here.
What's going on?
I'll bring up the projection, actually.
Well, speaking of Reform making progress, Laura, what you've got here is verification underway and lots of noses pressed against the glass, quite frankly, as people are watching closely all kinds of candidates on what could be a long night. Now, Newcastle under Lyme is typically seen as a bit of a barometer.
Well, just as a reminder, I'm not staying up till dawn or anything. I do want at least a few results to have come in by the time we finish the stream.
The council have done since 2022. And a Labour MP currently serves Newcastle under Lyme. But of course, you know, tonight was ever thus set to be a drubbing for Labour and the Conservatives, and that is because Reform are pushing for power. The party took Staffordshire County Council with a whopping majority just 12 months ago. That's sending almost 50 brand new elected councillors into the council chamber there, a real historic result. And while we could be looking at history being made here tonight as a borough council looks likely to change hands, of course, there's 44 seats up for grabs, and Reform are looking confident as well. They're saying that Richard Tice is on the guest list, so he may or may not appear a bit later on. And
No,
also
thanks.
they're saying that turnout was
You can
particularly good.
keep your Richard Tice, thank you very much.
Certainly have worked in their favour. Now, I just also thought I'd mention there is two former Tory MPs here. One of them is Jeremy Lefroy, so he's standing, he's on the ballot, and the other is Jonathan Gullis. He is also on the ballot.
Jonathan, oh, so he's got,
So
right.
he's clearly hoping to
Jonathan
come through
Gullis
as a Reform
lost his
candidate.
seat as an MP, of course, in the last election. He's having a throw at being a councillor this time. Tried to go back into the teaching profession, but was soundly rejected in every interview that he sat in. He is a complete and utter wanker.
It's essentially all up in the air. But the talk is that Reform particularly could have done well here, and Tories and Labour have been saying less of a drubbing and more of a disaster. But we'll wait to see what the scores on the doors show.
Jenny, thank you very much indeed, and we'll be back with you later in the night. And Jenny mentioned there that Richard Tice might be making an appearance at the count in Newcastle under Lyme, and he's been busy online. He's posted early positive vibes through the day, reinforced by early indicators as counting is underway. We are making history. So Richard Tice on the guest list for the Staffordshire count in Newcastle under Lyme there. And if the boss class of a political party is on the guest list, it means it's somewhere they think they're going to do well, because it's worth their while turning up to be seen on the cameras. But we will see. Let's take you further north then, to the northeast, to Hartlepool. And David McMillan is there for us tonight. I mean, Hartlepool is always the scene and backdrop for big political news. You know, recently, actually, David, the Labour
doesn't get confusing if Newcastle upon Tyne and Newcastle under Lyme.
His way. But what do you think is going to happen in the council there tonight?
Well, Laura, I can
being
tell you
counted.
that the Labour MP here, Jonathan Brash, is definitely still very much of the opinion that Keir Starmer should stand down and set out a timetable for his departure. You're right, Hartlepool is an area where there's been lots of political drama over the years. If you remember the by-election a few years ago, and when the Conservatives won the seat for the first time.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how stubborn he is. We saw the same with Johnson.
Over the town. Before that, of course, it was the scene with the famous
nothing Starmer can do could
Drummond, the Hartlepool Football
prevent
Club mascot, who became the mayor
people
here,
conspiring behind his back or voting no
for
confidence.
So 1/3 of the council is being contested tonight, so that's only 12 of 36 seats, but despite that, there's a good likelihood now that Labour will lose its majority on the council. They're defending 6 seats, and the feeling is that they're going to do very, very badly indeed. As you may expect, Reform are likely to be the big winners. Now, they can't take control of the council, they can't get a majority tonight due to the maths involved here in Hartlepool, but they could become the biggest party if things really go their way, and it would be a big achievement if they could do that, because they come into this election with only 4 of those 36 councillors at Hartlepool Borough Council. Now, as you say, Jonathan Brash had called for Keir Starmer to resign. There had actually been a battle between the council and the government. Prior to that, they had a problem over funding. They said the government should have given them
A good reminder there in chat as well from Andy Carr to make sure that you've got membership gifts enabled in your settings.
But clearly the ill feeling between Hartlepool Council, the Hartlepool Labour Group and the government is still there. I've been speaking to Jonathan Brash in the last few minutes. He's renewed his call, as I said, for Keir Starmer to stand down. He said that, in fact, tomorrow morning the Prime Minister should go out and set out a timetable for his departure. He said lots of good, hard-working Labour councillors are going to lose their seat tonight, and he wants a big open contest with lots of candidates to see who the next leader should be. So that's the scene here in Hartlepool.
Sure that some of them might be, but you have to look overall at the party that they're representing.
1:30 this morning.
David, thank you very much indeed, and give us a shout when we are getting
at the end of the
close to
day,
result
you just
there
really
in
can't put your
Hartlepool,
name
to
to
so much political history has unfolded there,
what the Labour have
and
done,
undoubtedly lots of drama
what the
tonight.
Labour Party have done.
There will, though, also be lots and lots of drama tomorrow, and I can show you these pictures. This is democracy in action. Ballot boxes being taken out of the boot in Glasgow into the counting centre. Very important to remember that counting in Scotland and Wales will not begin until tomorrow. So you can see there Glasgow Central ballots being
we can't give you any
it'll all be secure overnight because the
result where
counting
that's
is
concerned,
not going to begin
as
until
Kussenberg just
tomorrow.
said. But this is the projection.
The business of your votes mattering. This is democracy in
SNP
action. Boxes being taken
looking
out,
set to romp to victory.
And the races in Glasgow and right around Scotland as well as across Wales could well make history.
Good gains for the Greens as well in Scotland, actually, as well. Separate party from
that are ballots coming off the
Green Party of
ferry
England and Wales.
in Lerwick in Shetland. Organising elections are no mean logistical feat. I think there'll be a few more ballot boxes than that coming off Shetland, but turnout, as always, is difficult to predict. So much going on in the next couple of days. But remember, tonight we are focusing on results from 40 or so, 46, I think it is, English councils. It shouldn't be too long till our first result comes in. The first result might be from Broxbourne in Hertfordshire. I can just show you the scene there, I hope.
Broxbourne.
The tellers have been busy. Broxbourne in Hertfordshire, one of those places where Reform are hoping to chip away at the Conservative
Well, fuck Broxbourne.
vote.
What about
it looks like some
Newham
people
or
have finished
something?
Counting, but you never quite know. This is
That's a
where we
hot
get into
seat.
a bit of,
Another random hot seat for you there.
Really. We're wondering whether or not
Greens could snatch that
trying
one.
to read these pictures. Are they waiting for more ballot boxes to be emptied onto the tables, or have they already finished counting the bundles that they have been given? So who knows, but plenty to talk about.
Of course, here's the SENEDD poll, latest as well. I just showed the HOLYROOD.
Across England, Richard,
Play
for you,
Kimru looking set to
Essex
get
really
42 seats, Reform 36, so a closer affair than in Scotland. But
do you think Kemi Badenoch might reflect on having to change her approach if the results are
Welsh
are
independence
bad,
control,
or is it
that
just a question of waiting?
could be within grasp.
As we've mentioned already,
39 seats
that's sixth of the
being done by
councils,
Labour.
43% versus today's polling. We've still got a long way to go from the general election result. There's still a lot of listening that my party needs to do. We've already started to set out some of the plans for the future, like our cheap energy plan, our plan for drivers, countering a lot of what Labour's been doing, Chagos plan. We've seen some of those good U-turns from the government, But we've still got a long way to go to rebuild trust with people.
Well, that's
You're absolutely
interesting.
right
So you say you still have to do a lot of listening, but Kemi Badenoch's already had nearly two years.
No, well, she's not had nearly 2 years. It's not even 2 years since the general election. So let's be more realistic. It's more like
18
it's more like
18 months. It's
more
quite,
like
quite a long time.
But let's.
Tory's really scrambling, isn't he?
And it's not just her. Remember, her poll ratings are still ahead of the parties at the moment, and this is about us rebuilding our brand as well as her leadership. And she is polling above every other political leader, but our brand, because of some of that baggage, is still there. And it's a conversation.
I'm not backing up what he's saying. It's just kind of bizarre. The Tories are set to lose even more council seats.
From 43% down to
these locals, of course, but in some of the national polls that we've seen, they've actually gone slightly on the increase. It's just a sort of contradiction of stats, expectations, this kind of thing. Kind of rare that you see that kind of thing between at a national and local level, because normally one follows the other. Of course, Keir Starmer's popularity is currently universally poor.
Rachel, that was a very impressive eye roll. Yes, I did catch you.
It's just trying to work out how that works.
More and more people are getting to know who your leader is at the moment, and it's not all going that well, actually.
Well, it's been a tough week, but over the course of several months, he's transformed our party.
But that's interesting. Do you think what's happened in the last week about Zach Polanski has made a difference in the last couple of days on the doorsteps? Because he did have this huge surge of enthusiasm, and you've been campaigning very hard.
He's still up.
Have you found that actually
he's still more popular this month than he was last month?
Stories have made a negative difference as it cut through.
Look, we'll see. I mean, I
don't have.
The real story
I did see the stat
is of
just earlier today, in fact,
exponential growth
since he was elected.
I don't think anyone goes into politics expecting it to be
25.5% approval, by the way.
I think the week before this election has been a difficult one.
Good.
But I do think we will do better than we've ever done before, and I know
for
that
Prime
we'll
Minister.
kind of keep going. So.
But just in the last couple of days, have you been hearing back from voters at the close of this campaign? Has there been an impact from the difficulties you've had in the last week? That's my question.
I think most people I speak to understand that there's a kind of growing pains with growing so quickly. And that, there are processes, there are systems that we need to be improving all the time, and we are. I mean,
some of the questions are about Zach Polanski himself. I think you're referring to candidates, and candidate vetting has been a problem for lots of parties. It's been a big problem for reform in the last couple of years. Every party, every now and again, finds out that they have problems, but some of the
don't
issues
do the thing now, Gossenberg. She's doing the thing.
Zach's been getting phenomenal.
So another poll that, again, I don't have uploaded, so I can't bring it up.
And that's,
just want to hear what she says first.
I think he's a really great leader of this party, and we're pleased to have him.
I've just got to say, wearing my hat as Secretary of State for Justice.
Oh, shut up, Lemmy.
The police run to.
I just wanted to say, there was a poll out amongst voters of all the parties whether they thought that Zach Polanski, or was it the Green Party in general, whatever it was anti-Semitic. Overwhelmingly, it was a no. In fact, less Labour voters thought that Zach Polanski or the Greens were anti-Semitic than Green Party. It was close anyway.
Absolutely. If people haven't
it's a no, basically. But it's a yes in the chat in terms of
tackling the suspect to the ground, and he
where thanks are concerned. Andy Carter,
in the same studio with
5 gifted that 126. Solidari-Tea.
About how the police had behaved.
Update the goal.
I think everyone agrees.
Can we have a huge shout out for Andy in the chat, please, people?
It was wrong.
Just a second.
This person who just stabbed Peasants Revolt got one as well. God, what a.
I'm talking about. I'm saying it is always valid to ask questions. What wasn't valid, and which the
absolute
is clear on,
marksmanship that Andy Carter often displays is somewhat legendary. Brilliant. Yeah, we were just talking about it, and there you go. Fantastic. What a shot. Bullseye. Solidari-Tea.
Trying to take credit for some sort of job with the Red Cross, which it turns out he never had.
Ooh, that was the ballsiest bullseye yet, I think, yeah.
Sorry, I think that is. He said that's true, isn't it?
No, well, the Red Cross, he was a fundraiser so that, you know, he used to compare big fundraising events. And that
Hell of
kind
a
thing.
shot.
It's not a job.
It's not a job, is it?
But it is. He was often on the stage representing the Red Cross and raising a lot of money. So that was. You know.
And obviously there was also all those issues that he had around those claims he'd made when he was a hypnotist as well, and
which he's apologised for about 1 million. I mean, people have fed up.
But he did say at the time that he never actually said those comments, didn't he? And then it was found out that he actually admitted to it later as well. So it's not just a question of whether he said it or not, but he was dishonest about it as well.
I mean, I honestly think I've heard him apologise for that incident, which was 12 years ago, so many times, and so thoroughly. I mean, what's striking is that some...
How much more?
He didn't apologise about the...
Do you want him to apologise? How many more?
He shouldn't have tweeted about it.
Apologies will do. It's just so important they're trying to cling to this, and again, from a very long time ago.
He has apologised, I think, and it was the correct apology.
He has not apologised for having a go at the police, who in split-second decisions are trying to take out a terrorist who's literally been stabbing people on the streets of our capital city.
I think he did apologise.
I think he might think that the polls are still open.
Well, I think the two of you are not going to agree on this particular issue.
But the Oscar goes to somebody else, dude. That was
where time after time,
theatrical nonsense.
You have found yourselves in a position where having to defend.
That was embarrassing.
Do you think that there are real concerns about how your party is developing as Zach Polanski's leadership, or you suggested before
this whole
above
line
and
of
beyond.
questioning is embarrassing.
Are you suggesting that somehow he's being treated unfairly because you're enjoying new success?
Yes, that is literally what it is, and of course, it's anti-establishment, wants to tax the rich. That's why people like you are going for him. Because you get paid 330 grand a year to come up with this absolute bile.
We all know the Mandelson. Controversy. That's more than a controversy. That's like somebody connected to the world's most notorious paedophile was appointed to one of the highest positions of state. Like, the magnitude of those mistakes really puts anything Zach's done into pale, and it just it does seem disproportionate, I suppose. That's what I'm saying. Okay. I'm not defending the mistakes, and they've been apologised for, but they're not of the scale and of the significance to the nation that the mistakes that have been made by our Prime Minister and indeed by
Nigel far from it,
well, let's get
especially in comparison to
the nation.
leaders of other
Fitzpatrick,
parties.
Our political reporter in Tameside. Now, Tameside's Angela Rayner's backyard, also the
Tameside, that's not a million miles away from.
And it's somewhere, Kevin,
where this live stream's
Labour
coming to you
were
from
a bit
this evening.
nervy about maybe losing to Reform. What are you picking up?
Well,
That's all the east side of Manchester, by the way.
Certainly realised to some tune. This has been a Labour-controlled council since 1979, but all the signs were there, weren't they, at the Gorton and Denton by-election. 3 of the council wards in that constituency are in this Tameside area. Greens won the by-election, of course. Reform were in second, and they pushed Labour into third. And that set alarm bells ringing right across Labour circles in Greater Manchester. Reform have made it clear that Tameside was their big target, and I've just spoken to a pretty shell-shocked Labour senior figure here who thinks they've lost every single one of their Labour councillors who were up for re-election to Reform, and potentially Reform may have taken 18 out of the 19
a few complete wipeouts.
grabs here. That would mean that Labour lose control of this council for the first time in nearly 50 years, and if this is the result here in Tameside, well, the indications are that right across the north of Greater Manchester, in Oldham, in Bolton, and in Labour strongholds of Wigan and Salford, they could be in real trouble too.
And if that comes to pass, Kevin,
in the northwest,
what you're picking up. What do you think the reasons will be? You'll have been talking to people in the last few weeks as the campaigns have progressed.
Labour hated, and I don't want to use hate as a unnecessarily strong word, but people are absolutely done with them,
that nothing really seems to be improving.
Beyond frustration.
And Labour has dominated this area for decades.
It's well within the realms of
abhorrence.
abhorrence.
In Greater Manchester are currently Labour-led, although 2 of them in Oldham and Bolton are minority administrations.
James Holmes' interesting points. Either Iran controlled Tameside, or perhaps, well, they've had control of it since Thatcher was elected, which is sort of counterintuitive, but one of the two. Right, Manchester business here, people.
Has had a vice-like grip on it
for decades and decades. But if Reform are able to make those indents in places like Tameside, in Wigan and Salford, potentially Manchester as well, where the counting
That's the
tomorrow,
city of
the Greens
Manchester.
are hoping to have
As a
more of an impact
projection
there
you
as
can
well,
see there,
then it really will shake the party to
between
its core
the
in one
Greens
of its long-term heartlands.
on the rise in Labour,
Kevin, thank you so
dropping
much.
over
We'll be back with you
25
later through the night as we start
points
to
in
get the
this
results
one.
coming in, which hopefully the first ones won't be too long.
It's actually the
Indications
second
there in the
hottest seat on the
northwest of
list
England and Greater
after
Manchester
Birmingham,
of potential real progress
purely
for
because Birmingham's a
reform.
three-way race.
Perhaps also in a different part of the country. Let's go
Don't
to
want to be
Jonathan
too biased
Joseph,
towards
who's in
Manchester, of course.
Havering on the kind of outer edge of London for us. Jonathan, what's the picture you're hearing there?
Well, you don't hear pictures, Laura, you see them, but I'll answer the question anyway.
Targets for reform, certainly in London, if not the country, and they are in a buoyant mood here at the Havering count. Votes are well underway in terms of being counted behind me there. One well-placed reform source telling me we are smashing it all over the place and we are very confident of taking control.
Yeah, they're all still on zero. Apologies for the...
32 boroughs. It is on the borders of the
This is the highest the internet
alongside
connection
River Thames on
will
another
allow in
south.
terms of quality.
It is a place where we've seen an influx of people moving from further into London, trying
Sorry,
to
you
find
can't
more
make out
affordable
the
housing
individual
in this part of London. And that may
count, but
change
there's
the
nothing,
political map here. It may change the way people
nothing
vote.
there at the moment.
It looks like there's going to be a lot more split across the different parties.
Oh no, we got a two.
It's a minority administration.
We've got two
run by
reform
the
councils.
Havering
Oh.
residents' associations.
The results are wanted. I'm going to turn this down on
It
the
doesn't
player.
look like it's going to be a very good evening for that.
Just while
On the other hand, we have Labour.
say this, because
last time they suffered a
got this guy yapping in my ear.
tonight. And they're not in
Right, yeah. So there's one council has gone to Labour, two councillors, that is. No, yeah, that's still on two. Thought it might have gone to three. That's for reform though. So two English councillors confirmed for reform, and one council. Nothing for the Greens yet. Let's see. It's a long shot, but it could be potentially hot seats. I'll just turn the volume back up, lest they mention it and we miss it.
Now that is mainly because they've had to spend a lot of money on housing, on adult social care, these issues that have been cropping up all over the country. Councils have statutory obligations to fund these things, and they just don't have the money. So
very-
the council have had to make all sorts of cuts.
What we're hoping, there's thousands of these to come in, thousands.
Flights in town centres, so really having to find as many savings as they can. It's going to be a difficult
Pink is
challenge for whoever
independence.
wins this. Andrew
believe,
Rosendale
Andy.
is one of the local MPs here. In January, he defected from the Conservatives to Reform, and he seems to have taken a lot of that support with him amongst the local population. It seems like they've turned out in good numbers for Reform today, and we're expecting a declaration
It's just as
around
blurred
6 a.m.
as I'm seeing it as you
Because
are,
there were so
by the
many
way.
candidates. There were more than 300 standing this time, compared to just over 150
Vote green
in
and pink,
2022.
yeah.
So that means
Well,
the
it's all
votes
over
are
now.
more spread out. It may mean there are more split
Can't
votes.
campaign.
It could mean that it takes a little bit longer
But it's still, as
to
I've just
get
announced
the
it,
final
no
results
new
here.
results have come
But
in.
it will probably be sometime after 6 a.m. and it looks very
Let's see if,
likely
well,
that Reform
this is
are
all
going
that they've got to
win
go
as
on, so
things
they're bound
stand
to
now from what we know so far.
mention where they
Jonathan,
are.
thank
Let's
you very
stay
much
put.
indeed.
Come on, Laura,
And
do
as
your
Jonathan
job
has been
properly.
speaking, we can actually bring you our first two results of the night, and we'll take our
Zoom
first
in.
look at our giant tower
Crash
tally.
zoom on the screen.
Only two seats.
Go.
But two seats have gone to Reform. Reform has taken a seat from
Right,
the
where are they?
Conservatives
Are they
in
hot?
Brentwood in Essex, and a seat from Labour in Chorley in Lancashire.
Essex.
So there they are.
Chorley
First
in
two
Lancashire.
seats on the scoreboard.
That's where Lindsay Hoyle, the
Thousands
Speaker
and
of the House, is
thousands to
from.
go. But we've got to start somewhere. So that is our first moment
just
of the
come
night.
off,
Two
the
seats have been
61
taken
there. It's
for
up the
Reform.
A6.
And we'll keep watching the counts, of course, right round the country. And if I can just show you, because
And the
I'd
other
like
one was,
to. There's a gentleman in a
Essex.
Union Jack blazer. I don't know
So
what
neither of
party
those
he's
are hot
from,
seats.
but we have all sorts of wonderful and
You don't know what
sometimes
party
weird
he's from,
sights,
really.
at political counts
Laura
overnight. That's at one of the
Kusenberg can't
Essex
guess
counts.
which
looking
party this guy might be from.
eagle-eyed at the ballots as they're being
he's a brilliant
counted.
supporter. I know him very well.
Oh, do? Well, I was going to say, I would hazard a guess. He's probably one of
Or
yours.
Labour have held Charlie.
But you've confirmed that before,
Yes.
before I had to
Is that the
ask.
council?
Yeah, I mean, look, what's interesting to me about this is it pretty much plays out what I've seen when I've been out and about. So Essex, Kent, Estuary, very strong for us. Also, even Norfolk, Suffolk, I think could be strong for us. But again,
No, it's
Chorley,
reform,
you
I
just
think.
heard that as well. So the Red Wall. So this is kind of what I was trying to say. Around the United Kingdom, this is not geographically specific. It is across the whole.
If it is, then it's the first
When you have been
snatch.
campaigning, and I know as your party's chair, you spent a lot of time on the road,
10
more than
Grab
most politicians.
that
and
Reform have done on Labour,
you
so
can go campaigning all the time.
at the
But
moment,
what
39%
has been
of you think
sort of at the
that
top
they'll
of
lose
the
between
list in terms of issues that
1,500
have been
and
raised out?
just under
for
2,000.
Small businesses, plumbers, electricians, etc., working people saying
that's in
they
our
can't
poll.
afford to run their businesses,
It's actually
they
now,
cannot afford to take on apprentices, the cost of energy.
a tie
is
for second
huge
place,
issue, net
27%.
zero. Our supporters don't think that that is the right way to
Between,
go about
Those aren't things that local councils
No,
can
but that's
1,000
the
is
point
just
I was
under
making, which is
1,500
Actually, it's not about
and
the local
2,000
issues.
or
It's
more.
turned into a referendum on national issues. And
7% for
immigration
under
is right up there,
1,000.
both legal and illegal immigration. And that is pretty much everywhere I go.
David Lammy, are you braced for the kinds of phenomenon that our reporters are suggesting in Tameside and
braced for an
suggesting in
absolute
Havering?
catastrophic
I would
hammering?
say we're early, but our teams
I
on
think
the
he is.
ground are pointing to something that might be very dramatic if you have councils where Reform's winning basically every seat.
Look, I know from colleagues in the northeast, particularly, that it's tough, and there are voters.
He just keeps saying it's tough.
Now for some time.
It's because of his refusal to listen to the British
begun, I
public,
think,
of course.
around sort of 2016 and around the Brexit referendum, and let's see where they get to over the course of the night. But I do remember that they won 12 councils, I think it was, in the last local elections, made big promises, and we've seen massive council tax hikes. I think it was 9% it went up in Worcestershire. Chaos in Kent, downgrading. Let me finish the point. Downgrading of children's services. You've cut care homes.
I'm not going to jump into defend reform. I'm just saying
reform in office is
that they've left the door open for reform
to the sort of promise, isn't it? And in a sense, if you
only
take
Labour
more
can keep out reform thing.
It will be interesting
just
to
doesn't
see
hold water.
if it's the same pattern we've seen over
we
the
have
last
completely
12.
removed the pothole
Throw as
backlog
much
of
shade
17,500 in
at them as he
Derbyshire.
wants,
We
but
have
they've facilitated
identified £700 million
reform
worth of savings, and also in terms of our
by
council tax
attacking
increases,
the left
they're
of
lower
Labour, yeah.
than every other political party across the board.
9%?
Across the board.
I don't think so.
I don't believe that to be true.
That's
but
not true. It's 9%.
The average is under 5%.
Night Graham,
So the point
take
is
care.
that we are delivering. The one
Great to have
point
you
I
on
would
stream.
make about this is that lots of people came into reform.
got
We're growing, we're
infighting in Kent.
professionalising. But the point is the voters are rejecting you.
Yeah,
But
I
you've
won't
had
be able
3
to
leaders.
stay on too much longer myself,
What do you mean?
people.
Well, you've got a problem with leadership.
Do you want to
you're
stick
running
around?
through leaders
Just for a little bit, though.
across various councils.
That's
and by the way, in
2
Derbyshire, you've
councillors
closed
for
8
reform
care homes,
at 1 council
several
for Labour
adult
still.
education centres. Yes, you have.
That isn't true. And also, just in terms of Kent, we inherited £750 million of deficit. And when you take over a council, which have been run very, very badly, you have to look at the balance sheet. And what we've done is made £67 million worth of savings, which we put back into the things that people matter about, which is potholes. Every party loses councillors, and that is the
David,
nature
like
of
watching
the
two
show.
idiots have it out in a pub
David,
car
just for the
park.
record, you denied taking up council tax.
You don't care, you just
9%
want it to be over.
In Worcestershire.
You're not
You seem not to understand.
on either of their
that
sides.
You've burnt through 3 leaders in Staffordshire.
stop.
You've closed 8
Stop
care
Labour,
homes in
stop reform.
Derbyshire. You said you didn't. Is there a problem here with the truth?
No, not at all. But the point is that what people are doing is they're looking at our record and they're voting for us. You can see that by the results already coming in tonight.
I think if you win the councils you're predicting, not I'm predicting, you're predicting, they're going to see your record. And then we really will have something to talk about
But
in the
there
next
has
general
to be a
election.
reason they're not voting for you.
Look, I recognise that, as I've said, that since 2008, people have been hurting. And they worry about the status quo, and that is a challenge for parties.
2008. I mean, you've been in power now for nearly 2 years. Are you saying...
I'll quickly explain something. So not every seat in every of the councils that are being voted on, not every council seat is up for grabs, if that makes sense. In some cases, yes, all of the council seats are being voted on. In some cases, only a few. Yeah. So just to quickly highlight that.
First thing. The second thing is that the two major parties, the Conservatives and Labour, in terms of the proportion of people prepared to change their vote, has increased hugely. In a general election, by the way, 30% of the electorate turn up for a general election. They don't vote in other elections. So the volatility that's there, the fragmentation that's there, is a new phenomenon.
You're seeing high turnout, particularly of young people.
Is a new phenomenon, but Reform are being tested for the first time when they run local authorities, and so far the pitch is pretty bleak. Well, it's only 12.
Well, let me just...
I was going to say, so we can bring you actually, the first council result, Chorley Council, has been held by Labour. So there we are. It's our first council on the scoreboard. Chorley in Lancashire,
there you
where
go.
Reform had taken a seat from Labour, but Labour has held on to the council. It would have been impossible for them to lose because of the way that the numbers were stacked up, and we don't actually know how many seats they've lost. But it looks like they've just lost one seat there, actually. But that is our first. So our first council has been held by Labour, Chorley in Lancashire. All of this, of course, feeds into the national political conversation, and things like potholes we've been talking about, and care homes and playgrounds, and all those things are vitally important when it comes to the services that people rely on in councils right around England. But of course, all of these conversations, as we've heard from our guests here, feed into the overall national picture. So let's speak to Lara Spirit, the Deputy Political Editor of the Sunday Times. Lara, by about this time of the morning, I know that your phone will probably be buzzing with chatter about what we know.
Right, on that note, people, sorry, that's just about as much live feed as I can bring you. I do have to be up early in the morning, so I'll leave that there. We'll be catching up tomorrow, though, no doubt, over the results, so look out. There might be a potential video as well, depending on how big the wipeout for Labour is. Of course, we're predicting a huge one, but yeah, sorry I couldn't bring you the regular intro video, but I do, of course, still have the excellent outro, which is integrated into the members video as well, to try and save time. So yeah, this is with Squeezebox Dave and Joey, and also the outro to the local elections 2026 special. Okay, yes, hit relevant buttons. Before you leave, please, people, I will close the poll now. But I think the results is still as was. Although closer than it has been through the stream, most of you still think it will be between 1,500 and just under 2,000. 35% there. 30% for between 1,000 and just under 1,500. 2,000 or more gets 26%, and only 9% of you think Labour will lose fewer than 1,000 seats overall. Yes, and a shout out to everybody for the gifted memberships that we've had on stream. Great shot again there, Andy Carter, Peasants Revolt, being the recipient of that one. Thanks to everybody though, it means a whole heap to us here at the channel. Right, yeah, to bed, kind of excited to see the results tomorrow, as I'm sure you are. But as far as this stream goes, that's all from me, your humble host Lefty. Power to the people, free Palestine, Sudan, Lebanon and Yemen. Don't watch the news, be the news, don't let the bastards grind you down. And I'll be seeing you soon. Good night. Solidarity.
Right, off you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's easy!
The door is open and you can leave.
It's what Hitler and Goering did, and it is textbook. And if you think the next time it happens, we're gonna recognize it because they're wearing scary uniforms, you're out of your damn mind.